Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on your Tuesday morning, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Got a fun show planned for you today. Dr. Crane, how's it going?
We're feeling great today, Jake. I mean, yesterday I was feeling a little under the weather, did a few home remedies. I'm feeling like I'm on top of the world.
Well, and I got to say, the weather being in the 30s instead of the teens makes a whole lot of difference. Like walking out of my apartment today felt a whole lot better than yesterday, where it was just painful to be outside.
It's odd because when it's in the teens and you go out and it's 35 degrees, it feels like it's in the 50s.
Right. And it's going to get into the 50s today, which is fantastic. We got through the 2 days with that, Arctic freeze that came down. That was miserable, but at least it's going to be somewhat nice the next couple of days. Much better today. Last night, Vandy women's basketball got another win, 10-0 for the first time since 2011, 87-58 over South Florida.
That's
South Florida, preseason favorite in the American, got off to a little slow start, coming off a 12-day break for exams. Vandy was down 7-2 at the first media timeout and then rolled from there for a 29-point win. So back in action Thursday against Albany.
I love it. So then I guess, could they potentially go undefeated before conference play?
So Albany's not bad. They're pretty good out of the American East. It's still a team Vandy should beat. And then Texas Southern and Stonehill are the last two non-con games. So good chance. Again, nothing. You got to take care of business, but a good chance that Vandy is 14-0 heading into their game against LSU on January 4th, right here in Nashville.
Oh, so how much I would love to see Vandy get a win over LSU.
Kim Mulkey and a top 5 LSU team coming to town. Vandy could be undefeated, maybe top 10 in the country. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully Vandy can take care of business up to that point. So
you have a pinstripe suit for that game? You ready to go for that?
I might have to break something out, right? Something bedazzled for Kim Mulkey. I don't have it now, but we might have to make that happen. Got to match her energy.
Look, if you get outmatched, I mean, that's
on me.
Yeah,
that's on me. But yeah, fun game last night. Vandy gets the win, 10-0. Vandy men are in action tomorrow night in Memphis. So a little in-state rivalry tomorrow. So and Tennessee taking on Louisville tonight, right, Parker?
That's right. Hopefully the Vols can not lose 4 in a row and get a big win over Louisville.
Yeah, it's a big one. I saw that Tennessee is favored slightly, so that'll be fun. 6:00 tonight.
It is in the Food City Center.
There you go. So. Yeah, it's at home in Knoxville, so a chance for Tennessee to get a marquee victory over a top 15 Louisville team. We've got a lot to get to today. Going to spend a lot of time on college football today. We will make our college football playoff predictions. I feel like this is our prediction show whenever Nick is on. This is when we do the predictions. We did the NFL. We did the initial college football playoff. So we will do our full college football playoff predictions in the 10 o'clock hour. We'll talk about the transfer portal. The Preds get another win last night. We'll talk about that.
And hot.
Hat trick from Philip Forsberg, second hat trick in about a week now after Stamkos had one last week. So excited to talk about that later. But we will start with the Titans. Titans lost again on Sunday. But this is 4 out of 5 weeks since the bye week where the Titans have actually looked like a real NFL football team, which is, it's a step in the right direction. There have been a lot of weeks this year where I'm watching the Titans play, and I'm like, they are not playing the same sport as the team on the other side. And the Jaguars game was surely one of them. But the other 4 games since the bye week, Texans, Seahawks, Browns, 49ers, they've at least put up a fight. And the last 2 weeks, it's been the run game that's gotten things going. I don't know what changed. At first, we were thinking maybe it was Corey Levin coming back because, when Lloyd Cushenberry went out, all of a sudden the offense started to be able to run the football. But Cushenberry was back. And I saw this yesterday on Twitter, 70% success rate.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah, you have to click
success.
that.
There you go.
Excuse me. 70% success rate on designed runs against the 49ers. And that is the highest by any NFL team this year. Somehow the Titans have figured out how to run the football.
Look, I'm not saying Ali Udo is the, missing piece to this offensive line. I doubt that's the case. But this team looks competent when running the football. I mean, and I've been preaching it the last, 3 to 4 weeks. This team neglected the run game all season long, and now look at them. They go run first, and this team is a competent football team.
But I don't know what it was, because there have been games this year where anytime you hand it to Tony Pollard, it was just he's going to get you 1 or 2 yards.
Yeah.
And it's 2nd and 8. And now you've got to do the drop back passing game. You couldn't protect Cam Ward well enough. And that's why the offense looks so bad. But now that you've established the run game, you're putting up points. You put up 24 against Seattle. You put up 31 against Cleveland, 24 again this week against San Francisco. Again, you're not winning a lot of these games. Your defense couldn't get off the field to save their lives on Sunday, but at least it's a step in the right direction, especially for this offensive line that 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were having the conversation of, does this team really have to spend another high draft pick on an offensive lineman? Because this group is not doing enough. I think the last 2 weeks at least gives you a little bit of hope that this team has the group. Maybe you make a couple changes here and there that can be a competent starting 5 up front next year.
Hey, plus side to all this too, let's not forget, no sacks were given up by the Titans this past Sunday.
Right.
So like that's another positive. I
And
mean,
Myles Garrett only got 1. The Browns defense as a whole only got 1 2 weeks ago. They had the 2nd most sacks in the league, only behind the Broncos, who were far and away in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But it's important. This offensive line, you're not getting rid of Dan Moore after 1 year. It just doesn't make sense. And he hasn't been bad enough to make you need to get rid of him. Peter Skoronski is obviously playing like a Pro Bowler, which I think it's funny. Did you see the Pro Bowl voting totals?
no.
They came out yesterday. There is a Titans guard who is 2nd in Pro Bowl voting. It's not Peter Skoronski. It's Kevin Zeitler.
What?
It's a popularity contest.
Oh.
Zeitler's been in the league for 15 years, so
That's crazy.
they voted for Kevin Zeitler. I don't know if it's Lions fans who are voting him in or something like that.
Is there an incentive in the contract financially?
Maybe.
I'm
I
gonna
don't
look this
know.
up.
But yeah, Kevin Zeitler is 2nd in Pro Bowl voting among guards. Peter Skoronski is not in the top 10, which I think is hilarious. It shows you how little the Pro Bowl actually means when it comes to who gets in. But Peter Skoronski having a borderline all-pro level season. Lloyd Cushenberry, I don't know if you bring him back. That's the big question on the Titans offensive line this year, because I think the Titans do feel good about Jackson Slater sliding in somewhere next year. But J.C. Latham is the guy that a couple weeks ago, I think you're starting to question of, man, is this guy going to be who you drafted him to be at 7th overall? And I know they flipped him from left tackle to right tackle, but you thought when you flipped him back to right tackle, it's like, all right, he's back in his natural position. This is going to be a Pro Bowl level right tackle for 10 years. That is what you draft a guy to be when you pick him 7th overall.
Right.
And most of this year, it hadn't been that. He's getting called out by his teammates in the locker room. But the last 2 weeks, the penalties are still an issue. Once or twice a game, he's getting called for a penalty he shouldn't get. But overall, he has looked better the last couple weeks. And I think that is so important that you feel confident in J.C. Latham heading into next year, and you don't have to make a change at tackle in free agency or in the draft.
Yeah, and I got to give kudos to Paul Karski. He was the one that said this about a month ago, saying, Latham, he's been through the ringer when it comes to going to IMG, going to Alabama. There hasn't been much adversity in his career. You come to the Titans, and it's an absolute just shambles situation, and you're starting to figure it out. And again, I don't want to keep harping on the run game, but look, when you establish the run game, it makes it easier on the offensive line. When you get pushed off the line and you get 4 to 5 yards per carry, it eases the pressure of your offensive linemen to where they can settle into their position. That's just from experience. And you don't have to be a youth player, a high school player, a college player to know that. It's simple as that. Repetition and rhythm, that's what you need with this team. Yeah,
the run game, just somehow figuring this out has been crazy. And Corey Curtis tweeted this out yesterday, our friend he's on the show every Wednesday, so we'll be on tomorrow. Tony Pollard had 582 yards in 12 games, averaging 3.8 yards per carry. The last 2 weeks, he has 265 yards and is averaging nearly 7 yards per carry. Something has clicked with Tony Pollard. Something has clicked with the offensive line. And I'm feeling a lot more settled about the offensive line than I think I did 2 weeks ago, where you're looking at all the holes the Titans have. And we went through it last week of even the secondary positions that you're looking at, whether you want to spend some assets on a running back or linebacker, tight end, or safety. It's like, well, you also have to spend premium picks on cornerback and wide receiver and edge. You can't afford to need another tackle. And J.C. Latham stepping up, looking better the last 2 weeks, I think has made things calm down a little bit on his side. He's got to continue it. There's still 3 weeks to go. He's got to prove that he's trending in the right direction. But I think the offensive line at least starts to feel a lot better at this point in the year.
And it's interesting, too, when you look at this, you can be twofold. Like, are players starting to play better because of needing a good sample size from Mike Borgonzi going into next season? Or are these guys playing for their jobs for another team to have some tape on them going for 2026?
I think there's a little bit of both, right? I don't know if Ali Udoh is going to be around as the swing tackle, but he's putting some good tape on film right now. And throughout the season, he's looked pretty good as a third tackle, which the Titans haven't had in a while. Maybe the Titans want to bring him back. Maybe they feel they can find an upgrade at swing tackle in the draft or in free agency. I don't know. But at the very least, I think you feel okay about heading into next year. If your starting five is Moore, Skoronski, Cushenberry, Slater, Latham, I don't feel horrible about that.
No.
And that at least makes you feel better about, all right, we can use our resources in other spots.
Yeah, I mean, if the run game continues in the next season like this, I'm cool with that offensive line. I really am. And the fact that you have $120+ million in cap space, utilize that. Don't spend it everywhere. Just utilize it.
Right. I mean, this roster's got to be better. We went through it yesterday, the defensive line. I don't know if you were listening. There was a play, the Brock Purdy scramble that he had, where 3 of the 4 defensive linemen for the Titans were James Lynch, CJ Ravenel, and Truman Jones.
Truman Jones.
Did you know Truman Jones played for the Titans?
No, it reminds me of Junie B. Jones. It sounds similar.
I saw 56 on the field, and he lost contain, and Purdy got out of the pocket. And I was like, who is 56? Who? And had to look it up. Truman Jones. Nothing against Truman Jones, but you need better than Truman Jones on your roster moving forward.
Absolutely.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We are off and running with some Freudian slips early in this game, early in this show. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. If you want to text or call, our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Today, between noon and 3 p.m., Chase and Big Joe will have your chance to win a $100 Moments Peace Salon and Day Spa gift card and qualify to win a $1,000 Genesis Diamonds gift card. It's the 12 Days of Christmas on 102.5 The Game. We are off and running. We'll continue to talk Titans on the other side. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. That was Cam Ward talking about the offensive line and the growth that they've had throughout the year. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Titans have only won 2 games this year, but with how bad the team has been, you kind of have to just look for these individual, maybe unit storylines of these players having growth. And Cam Ward obviously is the one that we look at the most. Is he progressing throughout the season? But the offensive line, I mean, the Titans' offensive line has just been a disaster for so many years. And to see it actually turn into a capable unit throughout this season has been nice because it didn't start that way. They were giving up 4 sacks a game basically through the first month and a half, 2 months of the season.
The league in sacks.
Right. And the last couple of weeks, they've protected well. They've opened up holes in the run game. And again, as we were talking about, J.C. Latham has calmed down the red flags about him, right? I think Titans fans are especially, I guess, trying to think of the right word here.
Hesitant?
Sensitive to O-line struggles, considering how many busts there's been on the offensive line. You know, Isaiah Wilson, I mean, he wasn't a bust because of his on-field play. But Dylan Radins in the second round didn't work at tackle. Okay, guard, ended up moving on. Nicholas Petit-Frere obviously was a disaster. So it's like when you take a guy with the 7th overall pick, I think Titans fans especially are going to be hypersensitive to every time he struggles, like, oh no, here we go again. And it didn't look good for J.C. Latham. And to hear Jeffrey Simmons calling him out, and it just, nothing was looking good. And things could have spiraled for a guy like that. I mean, it could have gone completely in the other direction, and you head into this offseason not knowing if you have a right tackle. And I'm not saying the Titans for sure know J.C. Latham is second contract worthy at this point, but for him to steady things and not let things spiral out of control, especially when the season is kind of over at this point, out of reach, it's been nice to see J.C. Latham step up and have a couple of good games.
Absolutely. And the stuff you just highlighted there about, you know, Jeffrey Simmons calling him out early on in the season, and just the injuries that he's been through this past offseason and throughout the year and so forth. All that is just test. They're miniature tests to see if he can overcome those. And especially the words of encouragement, or I guess back and forth between Jeffrey Simmons and him and during practices and stuff, that only builds character. And that's something that you try to find with this Titans team. You want to find culture. You want to build the culture. And to hear Jeffrey Simmons say that he wants to be here for the long haul, that's a guy that you have as a stable point to build the culture, not only on the defensive side of the ball, but as a team as a whole, for sure, on the offense. So to have Latham there, and maybe that molds him into a culture builder as well. Because, you know, it's like a Kevin Byard situation where he was the one that kind of set the precedent with some of the younger guys in the defensive backs. Well, Jeffrey Simmons is doing that for everybody.
And I think for J.C. Latham, he can even look at Peter Skoronski as an example of a guy who didn't quite live up to expectations immediately. Mm-hmm. You take a guard with the 11th overall pick, you're thinking you got Quentin Nelson. And that's not what Peter Skoronski was for the first year and a half of his career. I know the appendix injury is something a lot of people will bring up, that, or not injury, but having to get his appendix out. He lost a lot of weight in his rookie season, never really got right. And then last year, the first few weeks, it wasn't like Peter Skoronski was out there mauling people. He was not doing great, but he developed throughout his second season, and look what he's turned it into in year 3. J.C. Latham has to believe that he can do the same thing of, all right, year 2 wasn't the step forward that I needed. Year 3 has to be. J.C. Latham has to prove that he can be a stalwart bookend tackle for this team next year. Because if you get through year 3 and you're still not 100% sure, you're pretty much sure at that point that you're going to have to go find another tackle, and likely 2 at some point in the next couple of years.
That's very true. You know, a lot of those younger players, Jake, in the NFL, they say the game slows down for them after year 2 or after year 1 if you're really a top-end player. And for Peter Skoronski, it's kind of slowed down for him, I think. That's why he's having so much success on the offensive line. Whereas you look at Latham, go from one side of the offensive line to the other in year 1 to year 2.
Yep.
Year 2, you have your injuries. The game hasn't slowed down for him. I think he's still trying to figure things out mentally and physically.
I think that hip injury was just a brutal blow for J.C. Latham. And I've said this before, that he put a lot of effort into transforming his body in the offseason. Like, you can tell that he worked hard in the offseason, And I'm sure that's a tough mental blow to work that hard in the offseason. You're looking forward to get to week 1, and halfway through the first game, your hip goes out and you miss a month. And it's got to be tough mentally to get back to where he needed to be. And I know Jeffrey Simmons basically said that J.C. Latham was not doing what he needed to do, was not giving it all. And the last 2 weeks have been better. I will continue to say the penalties are a concern. He's got to be more disciplined, whether that's holding, whether that's all the false starts that he has. He had a block in the back the other day.
Yeah.
He's got to be better with that. But it's encouraging to see him find a grip, because it was kind of free fall there for a little bit. He's found a grip. Now can he progress and, again, have that Peter Skoronski type leap in year 3 where you're talking about him as a Pro Bowl, all-pro type of player on the offensive line?
Yeah, I'm not too concerned with the penalties right now. Again, I look at him as like I'll use a farm reference, as a young piglet, all right? He's just trying to find what he needs to get into, if he wants to get into the mud. If
Young skillet.
Young skillet. Exactly. No, this is good for a guy like J.C. Latham, because I always remember what, Peter Skoronski said at the beginning of the season with Chase and McJoe. We're not all independent contractors. We got to work as a full unit.
Right.
And that has just been engraved in my brain, because that's something that should be engraved into everybody else's brain if you're a Titans fan or a player on that team.
And I think that's important too. We were talking about what the 5 could look like up front next year. Keeping as much continuity as possible can be helpful, right? You haven't had the same 5 or even 4 out of the 5 stay on your offensive line in a long time. You've had to shuffle pieces in and out. Being able to only make that switch and maybe plug Jackson Slater in for Kevin Zeitler at least allows these guys to build some cohesion, some chemistry, and hopefully that leads to a better overall unit coming up next year. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Keegan on our phone line says, on our text line says, you asked Parker yesterday, is the offensive line better since Bill Callahan left? And he said, yes. I think it has been. I don't know if that means that it was all Bill Callahan's fault, but
I think the priorities were in a different area. I think that's what it is. I think the priorities of coaching for Bill Callahan were in a different area. And what I mean by that is, again, I don't want to keep reiterating, I think it was just pass protection. Everything was all put on pass protection and forgotten about the run game, something that is never broken.
Keegan says the real question should be, will Bill ever get another NFL job after this group got better after he left? I mean, if Bill Callahan wants a job, he's going to get a job. His resume speaks for itself. I do have a little Bill Callahan fun fact that we'll get to at the end of the show about the AFC playoffs this year, but we'll talk about that later on. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Our good friend Trey has called in. Trey, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. Hey, I just wanted to say that I would be extremely upset if the Titans went out and recruited another guard in the first or second round. I think the city would just explode out here. Number 2, we need to move away from Kevin Ridley. And like Mr. Joe and Resro said this morning, we need a stud wide receiver. Number 1. I don't want somebody that's 5'8", 5'9". Oh, he's got all the intangibles, but he doesn't have the height. No, we're not going to go that. We need a stud wide receiver. We need to work from there. We need to replace Kevin Ridley with somebody that can get the same type of numbers that he did. No hurt players. And we need a couple of cornerbacks. We need a safety. I will leave the O-line like it is. Like y'all was saying, they doing real good here of lately. Defensive line, with Big Jeff in there, they doing good too. Cam needs somebody he can throw to. And right now he ain't got nobody ready but Idle Manor to throw to. And Tim DK can move to the slot. But we definitely need a wide receiver. What y'all think about that, guys? I love y'all. Let's get that show started.
Thanks for the call, Trey. I heard Joe and Robbie talking about this, about, let's say the Titans are picking 3rd. That's where they are right now. And there's no trade partner. The quarterbacks are off the board, but you have the pick of the litter of any non-quarterback in the draft. What do you do? And for me, as much as I agree with Robbie and Trey that wide receiver is important this offseason, you've got to find Cam Ward a running mate, a number 1 wide receiver. I think you got to take an edge rusher if you're sticking and picking at 3. Like, if it was Jeremiah Smith coming out, for sure, you run to the podium and take Jeremiah Smith. Carnell Tate's a really good player. Jordan Tyson, I think, is going to be a really good player. But if you're picking 3rd overall, a game-changing pass rusher is more valuable. And if you believe Arvell Reese or Ruben Bain is that guy, I think you got to take him and hope that maybe a Mekhi Lemon or Jeremy Bernard or one of those guys is still there at the top of the 2nd round when you pick again.
Yeah, and I mean, prime example, look at the Houston Texans. I know their draft scenario is a little different when they drafted Will Anderson. They had Will Anderson, I believe C.J. Stroud in that same draft. Is that right?
Yes, they got C.J. Stroud at 2, then traded up to 3 to get Will Anderson.
Yeah, so you got to think about it that direction is that the Titans could go get an edge rusher. And look, I think we're on the same page with this. Ruben Bain, I mean.
I think it's like pick your flavor with Bain and Reese. Bain is like he's a bigger edge. Reese is kind of your more versatile, like Micah Parsons type player. And I think the potential of Arvell Reese is worthy of taking that 3rd overall pick.
I could see that's fair. I don't know. Ruben Bain being 21 years old and being just an absolute just train wrecker on the outside of the defense there as an edge rusher, to me, that speaks more volumes because of the amount of potential that you have, because he could be on his 2nd contract and be 25, 26, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. That's incredible.
I don't think the Titans are going to have bad options. I know everybody is hyper focused on got to get the number 1 pick, got to get the number 2 pick. You got to be able to trade out. And agreed, trading out and getting more draft capital is really important. But it's not like if the Titans pick 3rd, 4th, or 5th that they're completely just there's no hope for them, because there are a lot of really good blue chip players at the top of this draft, and they're going to get one of them at the very least. You'd love to be able to trade back and maybe you pick up another 1st round pick for this year or next year. Obviously, that's the ideal scenario, but I don't think you can be upset if you're walking out of day 1 of the draft with Arvell Reese or Ruben Bain or Carnell Tate. Like if you leave with one of those guys, I think you feel okay.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement that probably edge rusher is the go-to spot, because the position itself is kind of depleted on this team right now.
And I also think it's easier to find a number 1 wide receiver on day 2. You see that more often. Yeah. Like AJ Brown was a day 2 pick, and Amon-Ra was a day 3 pick. Yeah. I think it is easier to find a wide receiver that falls to the early 2nd round that can still be your number 1, rather than these elite pass rushers who are only being taken in the top 5. That's where you have to take those guys. Myles Garrett was number 1 overall. Von Miller was number 2 overall. Like, if you want to find your high-level top pass rusher, it's got to come early in the draft. I think you can take a wide receiver at 33, 34, 35 and still feel like they can be your number 1 guy for Cam Ward.
I agree 100%.
We'll see how it works out. Obviously, there's a long way to go. Titans in the 3rd position right now. Raiders and Giants do play, so one of those teams has to lose. Titans, if they lose out, would pick no lower than 2nd, which would, I think you pick in the top 2, you're going to have options, whether that's trade back or take the best player available.
I think the Titans schedule it got a little bit more iffier for those Titans fans that are really rooting for that top 2, top 1 overall pick, because Chiefs are without Mahomes.
Right.
Saints are kind of looking
These
good.
Next 3 games all have scenarios where you could see the Titans win. I mean, it's Gardner Minshew this week. The Saints aren't very good, even though they've been playing better lately.
Tyler Shaw is looking not too bad.
And then who knows what the Jaguars are playing for at the end of the year, right? Yeah. They could be benching all their starters if they've already clinched the division. So lots to look at in the next 3 weeks. But if the Titans do lose out, they're guaranteed to pick no lower than 2nd. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. It's bowl season, and the Game Nashville Sports Network is your home for college football bowl games and the college football playoffs presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment. Today on Sports Talk 8:30, Troy takes on Jacksonville State at 8 o'clock in the Veterans Bowl. For a list of games carried on the Game Nashville Sports Network, visit thegamenashville.com/bowl games. We will talk college football on the other side. The transfer portal has not opened yet, but we're already getting some big names jumping in. Could the Vols or Vanderbilt possibly be involved? We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on your Tuesday morning. Talk some Titans to start the show. We'll talk a little more two-tone blue later on, but the college football transfer portal, different this year. Only a 2-week window starting on January 2nd. So no one has officially entered the portal, but it's looking like it's going to be a crazy portal season. Already some big names have announced their plans to enter the portal, including DJ Lagway, quarterback from the Florida Gators, Dylan Raiola, quarterback of the Nebraska Cornhuskers. We were talking during the break, Nick, about is he just going to go straight to Texas Tech to follow his savior, Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, at this point, he probably should, but I was telling you as well, like, I think he's starting to understand this is a true business move. Like, his 3 options I saw on all 3 sports were Arizona State, Oregon, and Miami.
Yeah, and Miami is going to go buy another quarterback in the transfer portal as they've done the last 2 years with Cam Ward and Carson Beck.
Yep.
I was joking with you, Parker. Did you see the tweet of Dylan? It was like Dylan Raiola knowing that he has to tear his ACL now.
I did see that.
That's great.
He's got to do everything Patrick Mahomes does, but it's going to be really interesting because I saw Sam Levitt from Arizona State. Looks like he's going to enter the portal. So you mentioned maybe that's a landing spot for one of these guys. Brendan Sorsby is the name that has been floating around in local circles. The Cincinnati quarterback plans to enter the transfer portal. And there was a clip that was going around of, reporter asked Sorsby, what road venue would you most like to play in? And he said, Tennessee. So a lot of Vols fans have made that connection of maybe he's the guy that the Vols would go after.
And his family lives in Knoxville.
Whoa.
Okay, I did not realize that. But there's also news yesterday that his girlfriend plays volleyball and she just transferred to Texas Tech. So we've got all the threads going everywhere right now.
Cinema.
But I think it's an interesting conversation to have about Tennessee is they do have kind of a loaded quarterback room right now with Merklinger, McIntyre, and you're bringing in Faison Brandon. And so you've got a couple of 5-stars in that room, but do you trust any of those guys to come in and start with the lack of experience do they have? Maybe this is a move where you bring in a transfer for 1 year. I would guess Merklinger, maybe McIntyre would transfer out, but you give 1 year with a veteran to allow Brandon to get ready to take over as a sophomore.
Look, if I'm the Vols, and if you're a Vols fan, weigh in. We'd love to hear from you. It just seems like from the Vols fandom that McIntyre's their guy. That's what it feels like. And I hear it from people like that. They say this guy has been invested. Like, and Parker's a Tennessee guy. I'm sure he could chime in on it as well, but that's what I'm hearing. Am I wrong?
It's just a really interesting situation because you have 5-stars in back-to-back classes.
Right.
And you're not going to be able to keep both of them in this era of college football. It's not like the Alabamas of old and those other schools where it's like these 5-stars will willingly sit for 3 years for their chance as a senior where they can blow up and then go to the draft. That's not how it works anymore. If Faison Brandon doesn't get the chance to start by his sophomore season, he's going to transfer. And as highly rated as that guy is, I don't know if you can have any reason to block him at this point, unless you truly believe that McIntyre is the next big thing.
Yeah. And to that point as well, we're starting to see everything unfold when it comes to roster construction for college football, because look, you're going to have a surplus of quarterbacks, 5-stars back to back, like you're talking about, that why spend all that money on that one position where you could just go and find other foundational pieces to your roster elsewhere. You know what I mean?
And that is a big question of I was just thinking about it with the Vols. Do you recruit Faison Brandon if you think George McIntyre is going to be your starting quarterback for 2 or 3 years? And I just don't know. So the Vols quarterback situation is one to keep an eye on. Do they think a portal quarterback is necessary, or do they believe in one of these guys in the room? I thought this was interesting talking about 5-star quarterbacks. Emily Proud tweeted this out yesterday. Works at 247. Used to be here in Nashville. She tweeted 8 5-star quarterbacks between the 2023 and 2024 classes, and only one of them has not entered the transfer portal already, and that's Arch Manning, who announced yesterday, or at least the reports came out yesterday, that he is going to stay at Texas. So he's sticking around. In 2023, here were your 5-star quarterbacks: Arch Manning, Nico, Dante Moore, who started at UCLA, now he's at Oregon, Jackson Arnold, and Malachi Nelson. All of those guys, except for Manning, has entered the portal. And then in 2024, there was only 3, DJ Lagway and Dylan Raiola, both announced they were entering the portal yesterday, and Julian Sayin, who, yes, he never played at Alabama, but was there for a couple of weeks and then transferred to Ohio State.
Yeah, look, I'm not trying to just single out Arch Manning there, but one thing that just catches my ear is that since he's staying, he's playing chess, not checkers, because look at all these NFL scouts. Oh, Arch, he's staying at Texas. Like, this is great. This means he could actually develop as a true quarterback in the same system.
Yeah.
Let's see what he has in the following year at Texas. To me, that's what I'm thinking. Now, as for all the other quarterbacks, are they just chasing the money? Are they just chasing that price tag? Who knows? Maybe they just see a better option somewhere else.
It wouldn't make sense for Arch Manning to go into the draft this year. Like,
Right.
I think his performance this year got better as the season went along, but it wasn't good enough that teams are going to draft him in the top 5. I think another year at Texas, if he can continue that trajectory upwards, there's still a chance. That name does carry weight. And if he is close, I think there are going to be teams that are going to want Arch Manning as their quarterback.
And it's extra eye candy. I'm telling you, if you stay, it's eye candy, man.
Right. And Texas will likely be very highly ranked again next year because they've got Arch Manning coming back. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The transfer portal opens up in just over 2 weeks and already seeing some big names go in. We talked about the Vols. We'll continue that conversation and add Vanderbilt to it. Both those teams, again, highly talented, 5-star freshmen coming in. Do they feel like they need a veteran in the portal? And could we see them at least test the waters of some of these guys who are entering? We'll talk about it next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, finishing up hour number one. We're going to give our full college football playoff predictions coming up at 10 o'clock. But perfect song coming back here. Should I stay or should I go? Talking about the transfer portal. And how could we talk transfer portal without talking about transfer portal Thanos? TJ Finley, who is looking to enter the portal for the sixth time?
Seventh school.
Yes.
If he gets a 7th year of eligibility.
Here is the story of TJ Finley. He enrolled a semester early at LSU in January of 2020. He then entered the transfer portal at the end of spring practice. In May, he went to Auburn. He actually spent 2 years at Auburn before transferring in 2023. He went to Texas State, had a pretty good year, entered the portal in 2024. Went to Western Kentucky, spent a year there, entered the portal again. Then last year, a year ago today, actually, TJ Finley transferred to Tulane. However, he was suspended from the team on April 4th and entered the transfer portal again. Then went to Georgia State this year, and he is appealing for another year of eligibility and looking for a 7th school. Has to be a record, right?
He's a studious man. That's what he is.
He just right.
Loves his education.
He does. He does. I would love to know if he has a degree from any of those schools. Seems hard to do in
no way.
In one or two semesters in all of them. But yeah, TJ Finley looks like he is appealing for another year of eligibility. I hope he gets it just for fun.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, that shouldn't happen in college football. And I think they need to figure out a blanket eligibility rule. You have 5 years to play 5 if you want. If you play 5, great. If you only play 4, great. But we're not doing these waivers. We're not doing these appeals. You got 5 years in college. Then you got to move on. But TJ Finley just doesn't quite want to enter the workforce quite yet.
Look, man, if you just go back and look at the COVID year, I mean, that's what opened up Pandora's box. It allowed so many extra years for so many different people. And there have been reports out there, or articles, that is, not reports, but articles saying, oh, all these players are now, the COVID year players are all gone now. Well, still got one here. I mean, it's just a straggling number because Finley's going for 7, maybe go for 8 at some point. I mean,
why not? Just keep asking.
I think the last person I recall not playing 7 years, but one of the older quarterbacks was Brennan Whedon.
Yeah,
Oklahoma State.
Right, because he came into the draft and was like 27 years old already or something like that.
He ended his, I think, last year at Oklahoma State, as a 28-year-old, 27-year-old?
Yeah, he got drafted to the Browns and was already late 20s.
Yeah, so look, I think college football, you're right, should have some sort of stop at 5 years, whatever it may be, but it is funny to see. It is absolutely hilarious.
I mean, I still love the Memphis basketball player. I think it was DeAndre Williams a couple years ago. He is older than Devin Booker. Booker finished his 8th NBA season, and DeAndre Williams was still appealing for eligibility. This was like 2 years ago.
What?
He didn't get it, so he didn't get to come back, but he was appealing for an extra year. Older than Devin Booker, who had just finished his 8th NBA season.
That is wild.
And like Devin Booker, of course, he went into the NBA young. I think he was barely 18 when he got drafted, but still crazy stuff in college sports. And hopefully we're getting to the end of these 6th, 7th, 8th year players.
Yeah, but again, that one phrase, money talks, man. And
right.
Not just for the player, but for the agent and for the university. And then that money somehow trickles to the NCAA.
Yeah.
So, I mean, NCAA right now is not a true governing body of college athletics anymore. So any money they can get the chance to grab, they're going to do it.
Well, with NIL, like the reason Diego Pavi was able to get it because it was basically saying they were limiting his wages. He couldn't earn NIL as a JUCO player, so therefore he deserved another year at the NCAA level. And that's a fair argument, but the NCAA honestly probably needs government intervention to fix some of the stuff that's going on. And they've been asking for it for years. So we'll see if it ever happens. But back to the transfer portal. Talked about Tennessee. They've got a pretty loaded quarterback room. Would not be surprised to see somebody transfer out, but would they want a transfer in? And I think the same question can be asked about Vanderbilt. You've got these talented young quarterbacks. Do you think they are ready? Or do you think maybe bringing in a grad transfer at quarterback for 1 year to allow them to sit and learn could be beneficial? And I think for Vanderbilt, I would lean, yes, you do need somebody in the portal, but I think you bring in somebody who isn't immediately going to be your starter. Like, you're not shopping in the extreme luxury, you're paying $2 million for a quarterback side of the portal, but you're going and getting someone who, if Jared Curtis comes into spring practice and you can tell, hey, he's going to need a year, you can plug this guy in and it's not like it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed of it. If I'm a Vandy fan, I'm more concerned for the defensive side of the ball, because you have I'm trying to count here on the depth chart. They have 11 to 12 graduate players on that defensive side of the ball that are no longer going to be on this team, and that's not including some of the seniors. I mean, that's where the depleted part of the roster is. I'm not too worried about Jared Curtis. I think you got to treat it like the Cam Ward situation. Let the rook go out there and make some mistakes here and there. Sure, if Vandy has some, regression, that's okay, because you're starting a new window with a new 5-star quarterback, right, Jared Curtis.
I think the expectation has to be a slight step back for Vanderbilt, right? With all of the experience they had, Diego leaving, and if it is a freshman quarterback, a step back is to be expected. I think you're looking to get 7 wins next year. 7, 8 wins would be a great season in year one for Jared Curtis. It might be a little less than that, but the hope is that you can continue to build around Curtis, and by the time he's a sophomore, junior, if he gets to his senior year, you're going to be back in the college football playoff conversation.
Yeah, you just hope that there's not too much regression, or saying, you know what, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Right.
That's the one thing you can't have happen.
That's the delicate balance of, yes, you can take a step back, but it can't be too far of a step back, because you worry about people jumping ship if things crater a little bit, even though I don't think the progress isn't always going to be linear, but it can't be a complete step back to 3 wins or 4 wins. You've still got to prove that even if we take a slight step back, we are still right there competitive in the SEC every single year.
Yeah, and for Jared Curtis too, like, if I'm a coach at Vandy, or if I'm a part of that football program, and even people that have already mentioned about Jared Curtis, give him the keys to the franchise, to the offense. Excuse me. Give him the keys to the offense and let him go. Because look, that even if there is some regression with the football team, it's on Jared Curtis's shoulders, not the coach's shoulders, for making the decision or bringing another quarterback in. And it's good to have some competition, probably, right?
And just some insurance too of I mean, I don't know, Blaise Bertolowitz and Whit Muschamp, like, I'm sure that they are going to be solid college quarterbacks, but do you trust them if Jared Curtis comes out and isn't ready, or if he gets injured? Do you trust them to lead your team for the entire season? I don't know. I think you might need to go get just an insurance plan of, hey, this is an experienced guy who's looking for an opportunity to play in the SEC. If he comes in, he can keep the ship afloat.
Yeah.
Right?
That's fair. It kind of reminds me of the Colorado situation too, when they had the quarterback from Liberty.
Right. Yes, Caden Salter and then Julian
Lewis.
Julian Lewis. Yes. Yeah. So that, I agree. It's kind of a similar situation to that of, go get a guy who wants to take a step up to the next level and is willing to compete. And if the 5-star guy is better, play him. But if Jared Curtis needs some marination, needs a little more time in the oven, then I think you can go with whoever you bring in. And I think that's got to be the Vanderbilt strategy. For the Vols, I think it's more interesting because you do have guys who have been there for a while. It's not like, unless Brandon comes in and he is immediately just head and shoulders better, you do have guys who have been part of the system. They've practiced for a year, 2 years under Josh Heupel. Maybe you don't need to go bring in a veteran quarterback. I wouldn't be shocked if they do, though.
Yeah, look, as for Tennessee and Josh Heupel, I think I wouldn't say it's a make or break year, but you got to see some progression with Heupel this year, 100%. And if you have questions at the quarterback position, you're going to have to pay a pretty penny.
And maybe that's why you do go get a veteran guy is if Josh Heupel knows that things could spiral in a hurry, do you want to put that on the shoulders of an 18-year-old, or do you want to bring in somebody who you can trust is going to come in and at least be you don't have to worry about rookie mistakes, freshman mistakes.
Yeah, you want somebody just a little bit better than Joey Aguilar. That's kind of what you want if you're a Tennessee.
And I think Sorsby would be a good solution in the portal. But again, I think the rumors are Texas Tech. I guess we'll find out when the portal officially opens on January 2nd. Going to be a very interesting January as we get into the portal and college football playoff time. which starts on Friday. And coming up next, as Nick Frazier and I love to do, we're going to make some predictions. And if we're right, we will always bring them up. If we are wrong, we'll never bring them up. We'll talk about it coming up next, making our full college football playoff predictions. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Second hour on this Tuesday, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Fun first hour. Here in hour number two, when we have Nick Frazier on, we have to make some sort of predictions. And with college football playoff games being played on Friday, that is what we will do now. We are going to talk about the predictions all around for the college football playoff and look around the first round games and the quarterfinals, as well as pick our national champions. Now, I know beginning of the year, I picked Georgia to win it all. I did have them beating LSU. So, we were close. And then for you had Oregon winning it all. So both of our national champions did make the college football playoff.
I believe it was against Texas too. I'd have to go back and look.
I did project Penn State to miss the college football playoff too, which was not popular back then. So we get some right. We get some wrong, as always.
Yeah.
But excited to predict the college football playoff throughout the next 30 minutes. And we will also talk a little bit about what Titans fans should be looking for in the college football playoff. But let's start with the first round games, starting with Ole Miss and Tulane, the 6 versus 11 matchup.
Oh, boy. Look, it's a heavy favorite for Ole Miss, home game for them. They've played Tulane before. As much as I want to just take all the upsets and just have all the chaos, Ole Miss will probably get the job done.
I agree. I got to take Ole Miss. This one,
did you ask that question seriously, or
so I thought a little bit about upset here, not even like 10%, but a little bit, just because of the coaching situations. But yeah, Ole Miss is going to win this game. I would say by at least 2 touchdowns. Parker, you're going Ole Miss too?
I'm going Ole Miss to cover.
All right, let's stick with the easy ones, everybody. Oregon over James Madison, correct?
Yep.
All right, Ducks move on over the Dukes. Let's get to the tough ones for this weekend. There are 2 really good games. We got a rematch, this time in Norman, Oklahoma, Alabama, 8 versus 9. Who gets it done, Nick Frazier?
Oklahoma, no questions asked. I think the committee is about to be exposed after what transpired with the selection. This is an Oklahoma team that everybody thought just one more loss and we don't have to talk about them anymore. This team continues to prove that they're a good ball club.
Yeah, this one was tough for me because Alabama in that game against Oklahoma earlier in the year, they outplayed them, but the turnovers killed them. Just the way Alabama's been playing lately, though, I got to take Oklahoma. I'm taking the Sooners to move on. Parker, are we making it 3 on the Sooners?
Give me the Sooner magic.
All
I
right.
think Alabama's offense is really struggling. Their offensive line's not been good. They can't run the football. If they can't pass, they may be done for. Oklahoma's defense is really good, and they know how to get really good field position. Plus, it's in Norman, and this team beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
Give me the Sooners.
All right, so we're all going chalk through the first 3. Here's the one, Miami and Texas A&M, the 2 teams to beat Notre Dame. This one in College Station with the 12th man behind the Aggies.
I got to take the Aggie land, right? Texas
okay.
A&M, it has to be them because it just Miami, Carson Beck, you just don't know what you're going to get out of this Miami team. Sure, this is a team that could upset somebody, but if Marcel Reed's fully healthy, this team could really do some damage in this tournament.
All right, I'll pick the first upset here. I'm going Miami.
Oh, wow.
I think Miami goes into College Station, gets the win. Texas A&M, it worries me a little bit that they really didn't play anybody in the SEC.
Yeah.
Right? Texas was the only team that finished in the top half that they played, and they lost to them. I'm going to take Miami to win this game in the upset.
Miami has never played in an environment like this, College Station. I think the difference is going to be running the football. I think Texas A&M is a more complete football team despite the scheduling. So give me Texas A&M.
All right. So I'm the only one picking an upset in the first round. You guys going with all the home teams. I will take Miami over A&M. All right, let's move on to the quarterfinals. So we all have the matchup between 4-seed Texas Tech, 5-seed Oregon. I think this one might end up being the best game of the playoffs. Like Texas Tech in that defense, Dante Moore in Oregon with Kenyon Sadiq, maybe the best tight end, one of the best tight ends in college football, right up there with Eli Stowers down the street. Ducks or Red Raiders? Who you got?
Oh, preseason darlings from here were the Ducks. Quack, quack. I'm just going to continue with it. Look, Texas Tech played really well in the Big 12 championship game against BYU, but this Oregon team, I think they're starting to click at the right time.
All right. I'm going to go Ducks too. I struggled with this one. I struggled with it, but I think Oregon might hit their stride at the right time. Last year, big disappointment for Oregon. You're the number 1 team all year long. You're undefeated, and then you just get punched in the mouth by Ohio State, the eventual national champions. I think Oregon will have a chip on their shoulder. I think they go to the semis this year.
See, I am torn on this one because I predicted Oregon to be in my national championship game about 6 months back. And then I've been talking about Texas Tech since January. They've been my dark horse all along. I love the Red Raiders, but give me the Ducks.
Wow.
Dan Lanning has learned from losing in the quarterfinals last year to Ohio State. That's not going to happen again.
That's
Give
what
me
I'm
Dan
thinking
Lanning
too.
and the boys down in Eugene.
All right. So none of us on the Red Raiders. We're very chalky so far. At least like we're all sticking
Yeah.
together. We're going to get some separation here.
Flying V.
Let's see. This one could be an interesting one. Number 1 seed Indiana, undefeated champions of the Big Ten. They will face Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl, the number 8 seed, according to all of our predictions. Indiana, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
All right, you're
Yeah,
doing it.
I will go out there and say, hey, Oklahoma can go out
You
there.
think
and
the
win.
1 seed loses for back-to-back years?
Yeah, look, I don't think we've really seen a tested Indiana team minus that Ohio State game, in my opinion.
Oregon
Sure,
too.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Oregon was a good game. Don't get me wrong, but the Indiana team that played Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, I think, got lucky because of that fluky field goal. That game could have gone either way. It really could have. But you're going up against a team in Oklahoma that Brent Venables puts together a really good defense. He rallies the guys together.
I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be very similar to the Big Ten championship. Low scoring, good defenses. I think Fernando Mendoza does it just enough to win the game. Give me Indiana to move on to the semis. Parker, which way you going?
I like the Hoosiers in this one.
All right.
I think the offense is going to be the difference. Fernando Mendoza, Omar Cooper, Elijah Surratt. They can run the football. Their defense is good. Yeah, Stephen Daly is not going to be playing, which is very unfortunate for them, but they are very, very good. They are legit. Give me the Hoosiers.
All right. So I've got Oregon and Indiana, as does Parker on one side of the bracket. Nick Frazier has Oregon, Oklahoma.
Yep.
On to the other side of the bracket. Number 3 seed Georgia, number 6 seed Ole Miss. SEC matchup for a spot in the semis. Does Ole Miss have enough without Lane Kiffin?
Georgia, I think Georgia's – I don't know what it is with Kirby Smart, but when games matter the most, and especially in a playoff, they just click. They just know how to play football, like competent football, not you're squeaking out a 10-13 win type thing.
Yeah. Georgia's been playing really well. Who's that coming down the tracks? It's the Mean Machine in the red and black. They're moving on to the semis. Parker, Georgia, Ole Miss.
Georgia.
All right. We're all on Georgia to go on to the semifinals. We will wrap up this segment with our final quarterfinal, and we'll move on to the final 4 in the next one. Number 2 seed Ohio State. I have them facing Miami. You guys have them against Texas A&M. Does Ohio State move on again and continue their path to defending their national championship, or do we get a big upset?
No, I think Ohio State does, move on to the next round. I mean, look, again, I said that Big Ten championship game was a little fluky in some aspects, but this is a team that, again, not as tested throughout the regular season, but for sure it could probably do some damage.
I've got Ohio State too. That team's way too talented to lose in their first game. I don't know, but we'll see if I have them going all the way. But I think they're too talented to lose to Miami.
It was a heck of a year for Mike Elko and the boys in College Station. Getting to this point after losing 5 games last year, make it to the second round of the playoffs, but they run into Ohio State, and Ohio State is here for a reason. I like the Buckeyes.
All right, so we are all pretty similar in our semifinal matchups. Me and Parker are exactly the same. We've got Indiana versus Oregon, Ohio State versus Georgia. You're going with the big upset. Number 1 seed Indiana goes down to Oklahoma. The Sooners taking on the Ducks, and of course, do have Georgia and Ohio State on the other side. We will predict who we've got going to the national championship and who takes home the trophy at the end of it all on the other side, and much more to come in this hour on college football. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. We are making our full college football playoff predictions. If you have any thoughts or your predictions of your own, you can text or call 615-737-1025. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So before we went away, we got to our semifinal matchups. Me and Parker are in lockstep. We've got Oregon versus Indiana on one side, Georgia versus Ohio State on the other, and Nick Frazier has mixed it up a little bit. He's got Oklahoma beating Indiana in a big upset. So for you, you've got Big Ten versus SEC on both sides. Me and Parker, you're one Georgia loss away from a third straight Big Ten national championship.
Disgusting.
I think it's likely. Georgia to me is the only.
Don't let Dr. Locke hear that, Frazier.
Excuse me.
The only team out of the SEC I can see winning it all this year is Georgia.
Yeah,
and it's not that the SEC is not talented. I just think that the talent is spread so much more evenly across that conference. And for the Big Ten, 3 of the 4 best teams I think are Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon. And one of those teams taking it home wouldn't be surprising to me. But let's see where we go from here. So in the semifinals, me and Parker have Oregon against Indiana, and I am going to pick the Hoosiers to get upset here. I've got the Ducks going to the national championship game. Give me Oregon making a run, getting to the final game for the first time since Marcus Mariota was there in 2014. Parker, are you on the same page as me, or do you think the Hoosiers take it?
We are in lockstep once again.
Yeah.
I have been staunch. I believe Oregon will be playing in the national championship. I don't believe that Indiana is going to get the best of Oregon twice. And if I'm doubting Kurt Cignetti, I have to go all in. I have to go. I can't be lukewarm. I can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
It really worries me that Kurt Cignetti is going to just go win the whole thing, because I'm just like, I have doubted him so many times. Last year, when they started like 6-0, I was like, they're gonna lose a game they shouldn't at some point. They never did. They lost to Ohio State, and that was it. This year, they're going to lose to Oregon. They haven't played anybody. Well, they beat Oregon. Well, there's no way they beat Ohio State in the national championship game. Well, they did.
Got to stick to my guns.
I'm going to say they lose in the semifinals, but, Kurt Cignetti, I, again, doubt him at your own risk.
Google me.
You don't have Indiana in the semifinals. Oregon or Oklahoma to the national championship.
I'm with you guys. Ducks flying a V. There we go.
Wow.
Oregon Ducks move
Oregon,
on to the national
baby.
championship.
This makes me nervous.
I know.
This makes me nervous.
Oregon, if you want to go throw some money on James Madison, maybe that should be right based on what we're picking right now. We got Oregon to the national championship for all of us. All right, on the other side, we all have Ohio State and Georgia. No offense to Ole Miss or Tulane or Miami or A&M. This feels like the easiest semifinal to predict. I think those might be the 2 best teams in the country, Ohio State and Georgia. I don't know how this one's going to go. I think it's going to be really close. Where are you leaning here, Nick?
Look, if I'm a run game fiend, I love the run game, and Georgia has a really good run game to the point where it's like not over 100 miles per hour, but it's, 50, 60 miles per hour. Making a bunch of car references.
I was about to say, yeah. Georgia likes to go over 100 miles an hour.
But Ohio State has Bo Jackson.
They do.
Well, they have my cousin, Nate Frazier, all right? He's been a fiend for them on the run game. So, I mean, they got players that you can throw to as well. Don't get me wrong, but Georgia's just a more complete team.
You're going with the Dogs?
Yeah, I am.
I got to go Ohio State. I got to do it.
Really?
Ohio State is the most talented team. And I think if they had won the Big Ten championship, I don't know if I would pick them to win it all. It's tough to go undefeated. Like to go 16-0 in a season, very difficult. I think that loss might act like the Michigan game from last year of wake up call. We are more talented than these other teams. Let's go prove it. And I think they're going to get to the national championship for the 2nd straight year. Parker?
I got to take my glasses off for this one. Jake, it was fun while it lasted, but we are no longer in lockstep.
There we go. All right.
Give me the Dogs. I have a good friend that coaches at the University of Georgia, and he just tells me what practices is like or are like, and I equate it to what the Navy SEALs have to go through on a regular basis. I think Georgia is scaling up at the right time, and if you want to beat Georgia, you got to cut the head off the snake. Not many teams have done that. The only team that's done that is Alabama, but Georgia got their revenge. Dr. Locke, I'm doubting you. Give me the Dogs.
All right. You guys both going with UGA. it's tough because I did pick Georgia to win it in the preseason.
Yeah.
But Ohio State, I think that loss in the Big Ten championship game is going to wake up the sleeping giant again, and they're going to roll through into the national championship game. So I've got all Big Ten in the national championship. So that means no matter what happens in this world, 3 straight Big Ten national champions.
Hey.
Eesh. The SEC can't be loving that.
No, especially when it just means more. And
Right.
apparently it's not more for them, it's less.
Well, Ohio State versus Oregon rematch of that. I guess it was 2015 national championship in the 2014 season. Marcus Mariota, Ezekiel Elliott, Cardell Jones.
Cardell Jones.
Ohio State won that championship as the 4 seed in the first ever college football playoff. And I think Ohio State gets it done again. Give me the Buckeyes to go back to back.
Wow. Just to take a little backstep real quick of the Ohio State-Georgia matchup, my biggest concern for that would be Ohio State throwing the ball in the air against Georgia, because that's probably the only weakness to Georgia right now.
I really think Ohio State-Georgia is the national championship game.
100%.
Like, again, no disrespect to Oregon, Indiana, Texas Tech, but those are the 2 best teams. It reminds me of last year, that Ohio State-Texas semifinal.
Yes.
Notre Dame and Penn State on the other side, 2 good teams, but it felt like whoever won between Ohio State and Texas was going to win the national championship. Just the way the bracket was laid out, 2 of the best teams ended up on the same side. I think the same thing happened this year. I think Ohio State and Georgia, winner wins it all.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm laying here. I think the Dogs won it all against Oregon in the national championship.
There you go.
I was a preseason favorite for Oregon to win it all, but Georgia, again, they click at the right time, and it's in the playoffs.
All right, Parker. Georgia, Oregon, who wins it?
I'm very confident in this pick. Georgia, again, just they're scaling up at the right time. Kirby's smart. This may not be the most talented team that he's ever had, but he loves this team more than any team that he's ever had. I believe Georgia is going to win the national championship.
All right.
Give me the Dogs.
All right. So we got 2 on Georgia. I'm on Ohio State. All of us have Oregon losing in the national championship game. Very interesting stuff. The more I look at it, the more I think those 3 teams stand out to me. Maybe we're doubting Texas Tech too much. Not that I think Texas Tech can win it all, but all of us picking Oregon over Texas Tech makes me a little bit queasy about that pick. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that. But again, I think Ohio State, Georgia, I feel pretty confident. Like, I would take those 2 versus the field to win the national championship.
Yeah. Look, this is a conversation for another day, and I'm sure I'll get some kickback or whatever from it, backlash. If Dan Lanning does lose in the national title game, and say DeBoer does get fired at some point at Bama, look, we've seen the Kiffin situation. Even Nick Saban said it. When there's an opportunity, you go after it. That has to be an opportunity, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, DeBoer came out and said that he is committed to being the coach at Alabama, so not going to move on this year.
Right.
I don't think Alabama's going to fire him even if he loses to Oklahoma, but I agree. I don't think he's long for that job, whether that's by his own decision or whether Alabama fans run him out of town. It doesn't feel like a great fit, and I kind of always figured whoever followed Saban, no matter what they did, unless they immediately came in and won national championships, they were going to have to move on at some point.
Yeah.
I think DeBoer's got probably 2 more years after this tops. And then he's going to want to go back to the Big Ten, or Alabama fans are going to want to make a change.
An underrated storyline in this playoff, if Texas A&M were to beat Miami, that would be the 2nd straight year that Ohio State has played a team from Texas in Texas in the college football playoff.
Right. Yeah. Because they would play in the Cotton Bowl.
Yep.
So quick tangent. I would love campus sites first 2 rounds.
Amen.
I understand why they don't do it, because the bowl games, they make money, and those quarterfinal games are the New Year's Eve games. But it stinks that the teams that get buys don't get to host a playoff game. Like, how cool would it be? I guess Ohio State did host one last year, as Tennessee fans will remember. But like, to have the top 4 teams with a spot not only in the quarterfinals, but in the semifinals on the line, I feel like those atmospheres would be better than your neutral site bowl games, but I get why they do it.
Yeah, I mean, look, people that watch the FCS playoffs, I mean, having home games through the first 2 rounds, right? 3
For
rounds?
a while. Yeah. Cause I was watching a little bit right before the Heisman ceremony started. It was Montana State and South Dakota or something
Yeah,
like
South
that.
Dakota State.
Yeah. So
I've
yeah,
always wanted to go to Missoula.
yeah, I feel like those FCS like Dakota, Montana games would be a lot of fun. Go to the Fargo Dome, see North Dakota State, South Dakota State. But I just think campus sites that's why college football is so great. The atmosphere, the tradition. But I also understand those bowl games have tradition too. I would say, with the exception of the Rose Bowl is the only one that I think is better than a campus site game.
I would, again, it'll never happen, but Rose Bowl national title game, that's where it should be. I mean, it just sets the scene for everything. It really does.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your reactions to our college football playoff predictions. I've got Ohio State over Oregon in the national championship. Nick and Parker both have Georgia over Oregon. We'll talk more about it next. And also look deeper at the college football playoff. If you're a Titans fan, where should your eyes be when you watch these college football playoff games? We'll do all that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025, The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, talking college football here in hour number 2. And we are now thrilled to go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, to be joined by Scott Ramsey from the Music City Bowl. Scott, really appreciate you taking some time. Excited for this game coming up just 2 weeks from today. It's coming up quick, Tennessee and Illinois over at Nissan Stadium.
Yeah, it really is. We're looking forward to it. Always, it's a great opportunity to have balls in town and know their fans will turn out, and also a great opportunity for the first time ever to host Illinois. And it's hard to believe that it'll be the first time these two schools have ever played on the football field, and we're looking forward to seeing the game in a couple weeks.
Right. And Illinois, great season under Brett Bielema. And for Tennessee coming in, I'm sure for your bowl game, it's always advantageous to have the Vols come in. So many fans already in Nashville. It's an easy trip for anybody who wants to make the little trip over for New Year's from East Tennessee. I'm sure that it's always great to have the Vols in this game.
Yeah, it is. I think, in perspective, it's our 28th year. And, I think it's always there's always some years it really is a nice fit for a team locally. We've had Vandy a couple times, and this will be the fourth time in the 28 years we've had Tennessee. So I think anytime you talk to other cities that have bowls that have a real dominant fan base like Tennessee does here, that it's probably not something that you want to do every year for either side. But this year really felt like it was the right mix, and a chance to play Illinois. We're going to see a lot of the players play and quarterbacks, and a chance to have some of the fans that aren't always able to get to Knoxville here in Middle Tennessee to kind of come out and see the Vols play. So this year just seemed like a really nice fit, and we're excited about it.
Again, the Liberty Mutual Music City Bowl coming up December 30th at 4:30 p.m. Tennessee and Illinois. And Scott, I know that bowl games, there's always so much surrounding it for fans. What can fans look forward to if they are planning on making the trip out here to Nashville to watch the game?
Well, it's funny. We're hearing a lot from Illinois fans that obviously we saw a lot of them for the basketball game just a couple of weeks ago at Bridgestone Arena. And I think they've realized that we don't have to create a lot of things in Nashville for fans to do on Broadway with the live music and the entertainment. But I think there are a couple things, I think the people that don't come out or here very often, we do a Battle of the Bands the night before and really kind of make that a fan festival kind of event. That's typically a big alumni party night. We close down Broadway and do the bands. And then also I always encourage people, even if you're local, you don't get a chance to go out to Gaylord Opryland during Christmas season. It's always a great destination. But our live music kind of carries the week, and we're certainly looking forward to having the Battle of Bands night before the game. And then, like you mentioned, a great time slot for us with ESPN this year. 5:30 Eastern is a great time to get maximum viewers for our new title sponsor in Liberty Mutual, and all things seem to be really lined up pretty well for us this year.
Scott Ramsey's on the line with us. Scott, yeah, you mentioned about the Battle of the Bands. That's kind of one of the big things that I look forward to every year when the Music City Bowl takes place here in Nashville. But especially with these two bands in Tennessee and Illinois, you're going to get that atmosphere that everybody loves about college football.
Yeah, there's something about Broadway being shut down with about 800 to 900 college band members kind of jammed in there on one block and playing, kind of reverberating off the building. So it's a really cool night, and certainly it's a night that we can kind of showcase downtown, and especially for fans that don't come very often. It's a great destination.
Every year this takes place here in Nashville. Just what is something for you that you always look forward to when the Music City Bowl rolls around this time of season?
I think it's the seniors that are playing their last game that maybe don't have the NFL on their radar, but last time they're going to put the uniform on, and a chance to see them at the team meeting, and then usually a couple times during the week at some team activities that I think it's pretty special to them as we all can relate to the last time you do something with a bunch of buddies, close your career out. It's always makes you feel pretty good about putting the game on. And that's certainly one thing that always kind of sticks out every year for me.
And I think that's a great point. And I know there's been a lot of conversation about teams opting out of bowl games and the bowl system as a whole. But as someone who works in it, that has to be a really special part of playing in these bowl games, is the opportunities it gives for these players who, again, could be the last time they ever put a football uniform on.
Yeah, I think sometimes we kind of miss the stories there of it's still college. I certainly think the playoffs and the people going to NFL and opting out, and being ready for that. But it's such a small percentage of. I mean, these guys are addressing 110 to 125 players. So, you know, if there's a small percentage that are going to be really elite players going to the NFL, it's one thing. But experience and to imagine, you know, 90 to 100 of them that are kind of being in here playing and enjoying the trip and doing something with their family and their teammates. It's pretty cool. So, you know, I think we miss the college aspect of that sometimes and get kind of hung up on, you know, on the real elite players and elite programs. So, you know, and certainly I think we got to look. I mean, we're not putting our head in the sand a little bit on the kind of how postseason is going to be. I mean, I think, you know, I think that's still up in the air. They got to make some decisions by the end of January on the expansion of the playoff system. And if so, what's the whole, you know, playoff or what's the whole postseason model going to look like with the playoffs? And, you know, what are the CFP, non-CFP bowls like us going to have? What role do they want us to have? And so I think there's a lot of things that kind of go forward. But to this point, I think it's really an important event. It's an event that's important for the players still. And I know it's a great event for our city to host.
Yeah, Scott, on that note, you know, the FCS National Championship is going to be held at Vanderbilt this year, from my knowledge. It just with those numbers, along with the Music City Bowl, and you talk about the expansion of the playoff, how do you think that will help bode well for the Music City Bowl and the future of college football?
That's a good question. I tell you, we're excited about it. I mean, I think we've got the bid for 2 years. We're hosting at First Bank Stadium at Vanderbilt. Semifinals are Saturday, so we'll know our two teams on Saturday night. And couldn't be more excited about it. The excitement, the atmosphere, and the fan passion that we saw in Frisco last year. I can't wait to have Nashville experience that. And you know, you got two teams that they're playing for a national championship, and regardless of the level, quote unquote, it's called. It's for a national championship at a collegiate level, and they're good football teams, and I think people are really going to enjoy the level of football if they can come out and see it. I think overall, you look at it from the city's perspective, which is our job. You got the Music City Bowl rolling in, you got New Year's Eve, and then you got FCS. So we've really made it a great week of kind of music and sports.
Scott Ramsey from the Music City Bowl is our guest. Again, the Liberty Mutual Music City Bowl, 4:30 on December 30th, Tennessee and Illinois. Last one for you, Scott. I know it has to be exciting, too, that a new stadium is going to be opening up across the Cumberland. And I'm sure that leads to a whole lot more opportunities for the Music City Bowl moving forward, and likely leads to a lot warmer Music City Bowl moving forward once the new stadium opens up.
Good point. Yeah, we'll be warmer. But, you know, again, it opens up a lot of doors for us. I think we've all talked about some of the major national events that we weren't able to pursue as a city because of venue and because of weather. Now that's gone. When you look at Super Bowls, national championships, CFP games, Final Fours, those kind of things. So certainly looking forward to those opportunities, and hopefully we'll have some of those lined up pretty soon.
Scott, thanks so much for taking some time with us today. Really looking forward to this game coming up day before New Year's Eve, December 30th, 4:30 p.m., Tennessee and Illinois in the Liberty Mutual Music City Bowl. We'll be tuned in and appreciate you again taking some time.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Merry Christmas. We don't talk to you.
Merry Christmas. Scott Ramsey, our guest today here on Next Man Up from the Liberty Mutual Music City Bowl, Tennessee and Illinois, coming up on December 30th. We'll take a quick break. We'll talk more college football on the other side. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, wrapping up hour number 2. Big thanks to Scott Ramsey from the Nashville Sports Council to join us in the last segment talking about the Music City Bowl, Tennessee and Illinois, 4:30 p.m. on December the 30th, televised on ESPN. Should be a fun one out there at Nissan Stadium. We will talk some Preds coming up at the top of the hour. Preds got another win last night, but I did want to have the conversation here as we head into the college football playoffs about some of the guys who the Titans fans should be looking at, whether that's as possible draft picks or guys that could help out the Titans' ability to trade back. And I think the 3 guys that stand out to me, we talked about all of them early in the show about what the Titans could do with a top 5 pick. Arvell Reese and Carnell Tate of Ohio State and Ruben Bain of Miami. Chance you see all 3 of them playing in the same game if Miami is able to beat Texas A&M. There are some other names out there. Cassius Howell for Texas A&M would be a guy that you want to keep an eye on. But I would say those are the names that if you're looking at possible future Titans, that little quadrant of the bracket with Ohio State, Miami, Texas A&M is a good place to start.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an NFL scout, you're probably salivating at the mouth watching those games, right? I mean, it's exactly what you want. You want to get good tape on everybody, and it's good competition. So, I mean, kudos to all the great talents. And I guess you could give some pat on the back to the committee for scheduling it that way.
Yeah. And, I mean, we're getting close to draft season. We're not at the point where we're diving deep. We can have these surface level conversations about the guys projected at the top. But by the end of the college football playoff, I think we'll be a little bit further into that where we know where the Titans are picking, and we can start to have these broader conversations about Arvell Reese. Does he seem like the right fit at number 3? Carnell Tate, is he worth a pick that high? And I'm excited for that coming up later on in the college football playoff. But the biggest thing the Titans should be rooting for in this college football playoff, you want Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, and even Ty Simpson to go off. You want those 3 quarterbacks to have legendary performances that catch the eyes of NFL scouts and immediately shoots them back up towards the top of the draft board. It's been a rotation of all of them. It was, at one point it was Dante Moore, but then he's going back to school. Then it was Ty Simpson at the beginning of, or in the middle of the season, but then he fell off. Now it's Mendoza, and Moore is back up to number 2. If you could get all 3 of those guys to shoot up to the top of the draft board, it puts the Titans in a much, much better spot. Look back at 2 years ago. You don't have to be picking first to get a huge trade offer. That year, 2 years ago, with Williams and Jaden Daniels and Drake May. Now, do I think these 3 guys are those guys? No. But if you get some teams to fall in love with them, if they have big performances down the stretch, there could be teams desperate enough that, hey, a team who's picking 6th, like the Giants did 2 years ago, will give you a pretty big offer to move up to 3rd if that's where you're picking.
Yeah, and I'm not sure where the Raiders sit in all this right now. Are they in the top 4?
It's right now it's Giants, Raiders, Titans.
Oh, bummer. See, the Raiders have been on my mind the last couple weeks, and I just keep forgetting of how bad they are to the point where the Titans actually won a game.
If there's a team that's tanking, it's the Raiders.
Yeah.
They're horrible.
They're bad.
They're really, really bad. Like, they've gotten shut out twice now. I find it really hard to believe they're going to win another game. It's not impossible because, again, they do play the Giants, but the Giants fans are once again going to be upset because they're going to play their way out of the number 1 pick. But I really do think the Raiders are just a worse team than the Giants. The Titans' hope, and I mentioned this yesterday, is week 18, the Raiders host the Kansas City Chiefs. And you can't tell me that Chiefs team that's been playing for Super Bowls for the last decade, basically, is going to get up for a week 18 game against the Raiders where you have absolutely nothing to play for and your quarterback isn't playing.
Look, that's a game Gardner Minshew is circled on his schedule because that's a
former team.
Game. Exactly. He wants every bit of that. And of course, you don't want to hear that as a Titans fan because that means the Raiders will probably just sit down and
I'm hoping for the opposite. Maybe Minshew shows up, but you tell me Travis Kelce is going to come out there and, have his A game against the Raiders in a meaningless week 18 game without Patrick Mahomes? I don't think so. We saw Chris Jones, the way he loafed against the Jaguars earlier this season. Do we think he's going all out for that game? So that's your hope if you're the Titans, of the Raiders maybe getting one more win. But I think the Titans, you got to hope that they're the most possible quarterback that teams want at the top. Because if you can be either 1, 2, or 3, and maybe Ty Simpson elevates his game, beats Oklahoma, beats Indiana in back-to-back weeks. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if he does, maybe that entices Arizona or New Orleans or LA to come up and get him, or Miami. And it's like, all right, now you can still be picking third and get that influx of draft capital that you've been looking for.
Yeah, and you mentioned LA, the Rams. It's interesting because they hold the Atlanta Falcons pick.
They do,
right?
Which is currently 10th.
Yeah, I mean they're sitting pretty right there. You make a good point about maybe if the Saints are interested, but it doesn't seem like it right now. I mean, you have a surplus of teams that need a quarterback, but yet that number 3 overall pick to me is just not appetizing like a number 2 or a number 1.
No, I agree. And Indy Ben, he makes a good point here. The Titans are horrible too. He says just as bad as the Raiders. Overall on the season, sure, but right now the way they're playing is the point I was making. The Titans have at least shown some fight and some competitiveness the last couple weeks. They haven't been completely run off the field. The Raiders are just getting embarrassed week in and week out. And that could change. But right now, the Raiders are playing like a team that will lose out. The Titans are not playing like a team that's guaranteed to lose out. He also says, I think Mendoza will be the only quarterback worth drafting in the top 10. And that could be true, but all you need is one of these GMs or coaches to fall in love with Dante Moore or fall in love with Ty Simpson and be willing to stake their career on, this is the guy I want. And not saying it's likely, but if you're a Titans fan watching the college football playoff and, neutral observer, you're not rooting for any of these teams, root for those quarterbacks to go off because that's going to help the Titans in the long run.
Yeah, and look, you mentioned Ty Simpson, and I kind of want to just highlight the Las Vegas Raiders right now because that's where I think Ty Simpson's going to end up if they do stick it to, because Mendoza is obviously going to be number 1 overall. It
feels like that is the most likely scenario.
Right.
We don't know. Cam Ward at this point last year, I don't think was thought of as the surefire number 1. And 3 months later, it was guaranteed basically.
Yeah.
So we don't know. Maybe NFL GMs and scouts have a different read on this whole draft class than the general public. But yes, I agree with you. As of right now, I think it's a pretty safe bet Mendoza's going first.
Yeah. And if that's the case, then you look at a guy like Ty Simpson in that Raiders offense. And I think that's kind of what they need. They just need a systematic quarterback that can just hand the ball off to your playmakers and throw the ball to your playmakers because that's what he's surrounded by.
I mean, that's a nice situation to walk into with Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty on your team. Yeah. They need more, but that's not a bad spot to be.
And I could also see how the Raiders would probably trade back with like a New York or an Arizona, like you were talking about for the Titans, because that's the thing is right now the chess pieces are all over the place, but it's a matter of at the end of the season, if Vegas is still ahead of Tennessee, then they kind of hold the weight of the trade negotiations.
Yeah. Indy Ben also asked, isn't Moore going back to Oregon? So that was the rumor early on, but as his draft stock has been rising, it seems more likely that Dante Moore is going to enter the draft. We can talk about NIL and all that. The $3 to $4 million he would get to go back to Oregon is not worth the, $40 million guaranteed he would get to get drafted
right
first or second overall. Maybe more than that. So
specific word there, guaranteed.
If his agent is talking to teams and they're saying, yeah, you're going to be the number 1, number 2, number 3 overall pick, Dante Moore's coming out. He is going to come out. So those are the 3 I think you're rooting for. I don't really see any other quarterbacks who could enter the fray into a first round grade.
An interesting idea out there. Everybody's talking about, well, it looks like Joe Burrow needs a new scenery for a team, whatever that may be. I don't think it'll happen, but if it does, Cincinnati is a team that might look at a quarterback for sure.
I don't think it's going to happen that quick.
Right.
But I think things are not going well up there in Cincinnati, and another bad season, you could either get a trade request, maybe an Andrew Luck. All the injuries, does Joe Burrow just call it quits? Adam in Portland says, I got a feeling that Alabama is going to make all of you guys look bad. I hate them, but I think they'll make it to the national championship game. We all picked them to lose in the first round. And I saw that earlier from Adam in Portland, and I kind of am a little scared of that. Like, it's not Nick Saban, but it's still picking against Alabama. I'm a little bit scared they're going to make a run, which, again, if you're rooting for Ty Simpson, could end up being pretty good.
Yeah, look, if Alabama can go on a run of just throwing the ball well, and that's one of the players on their team, Ryan Williams, been a little underwhelming this season.
Yeah, he has not, like, it was Jeremiah Smith 1A, Ryan Williams 1B last year. That gap has widened.
Yeah.
Not that Ryan Williams isn't going to be probably a first round pick, but yeah, Jeremiah Smith has exponentially made himself the number one wide receiver in 2027. 3337 says, how cool is it that Indy and Jacksonville don't have first round picks the next 2 years because they picked defensive players or traded for them? Sauce Gardner, Travis Hunter. That is an interesting thought that, yeah, Jacksonville, they traded their first round pick to the Browns, the Jets getting Indy's first round pick. Both those teams could be teams that want to come up to trade with the Titans too. So there's a chance the Titans end up making those picks. Who knows?
I mean, that'd bode well for him. It really would, because I feel like that's kind of how NFL works. You have a couple teams that are good, and then something falls out of the wagon, and then that's where the Titans.
Well,
rise.
and for those Jets picks, I remember we were looking at mock drafts, way too early mock drafts, and it was like, oh, the Jets trade up with the Titans, and they give them 7 and 26 or something like that. That Colts pick is coming back to earth and could end up being much more valuable by the end of the season. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. One more hour on the show. We're going to talk some Preds on the other side. Preds with a 5-2 win over St. Louis. They have now won 7 of their last 10 and coming back home for 3 games. Is this fool's gold, this little run they're on, or can the Preds actually put themselves back into the playoff race? We'll talk about it coming up next. Also, some more NFL talk towards the end of the show. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, next man up, 102.5. The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Going to talk some Preds here to start off hour number 3. Predators 5-2 winners last night in St. Louis, and now returning home. 3 games this week, starting tomorrow night. And we will be giving away a couple of tickets to tomorrow night's game against the Hurricanes. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But Hurricanes on Wednesday, then the Leafs on Saturday, Rangers on Sunday. Preds have won 7 of 10. And I saw this from Alex Doherty this morning. Since November 26th, the Preds are tied for the second most wins in the NHL with teams like the Avalanche, the Wild, and the Hurricanes. They've been playing some of the best hockey in the NHL, but you also lost 11 of 13 right before this little run. It's a big hole to climb out of, but it's good to see that this team has found a little bit of a rhythm finally. And talking with Max Hers last week, he says that the camaraderie is there and there's a drive, there's a want to from this team to fight their way back from the slow start. It's going to take a lot, but there's still 50 games to go for this team to try and get themselves back into the hunt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest hockey savant, but like looking at the way they're playing, it's quicker. And also they're crashing the net a lot more. There's like a lot more screening, I guess is what it's called in hockey, but there's a lot more traffic in front of the net, which is creating more goal scoring opportunities. And for me, like that's kind of what you want. You want more offense. And if you can just continue to press, there's going to be goals regardless.
Well, and they're scoring so much more. And a lot of it is against bad teams. Got to be qualified there where, you score 7 goals against the Blues last week. You score 5 goals against them this week. You scored 5 against the Flames. They're not great teams that you're scoring against, but it's good that you're dominating the teams that are supposed to be at the bottom of the standings.
Right. That's the expectation. You got to beat those teams because if you don't, then you're
with them.
Yeah,
right.
you're with them essentially. Yeah. So looking at their upcoming schedule, you got Toronto, you got the Rangers, and like you look at Toronto, they're 33 points. I'm not trying to play the numbers game, but 33 points compared to 30 points, you're not too far off when it comes to stuff like that. So,
right.
You think that you're pretty comparable when it comes to playing a team like that.
And long way to go, but they've got to be able to sustain this success. And 5100 on the text line brings up a point that I wanted to get to he says, good morning. About the Predators, I do not trust the team at all. I was hoping the team went on a little run so the Predators can get more in trade bait, but please do not let this team fool management again. Sell, sell, sell. And that's the question with this Preds team. Is it fool's gold that we're seeing right now? Is this just a little... Is it okay to use the phrase the dead cat bounce of like is it bouncing back and are they actually going to show progress the rest of the season, or is it just one little stretch run and then they're going to fall back to the cellar? The good news is there's still time before the trade deadline, but we have seen it before. The run to the playoffs in 2023. Barry Trotz saw that and said, we can go all in. And it ended up backfiring and possibly setting this team back multiple years. Is this run the start of something that gets the Preds back into it that would stop them from selling off some of their more veteran assets? Or is it just a flash in the pan that they're not going to be able to sustain? And we'll be talking about this team as a seller at the end of the, heading into March.
I don't think it's fool's gold per se. Like looking past the 3 games this week, you look at next week. Obviously, Minnesota's a tough team. You play St. Louis again. You take care of business there. Utah's been a pretty decent team this year. And then you go to Vegas, Seattle. It's that away trip that the true litmus test for me. Because if you can take care of business on the road, that's where you're going to find out if this team's legit or not.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the big breakthrough moment for this team. And maybe it was the shootout win against the Avs last week. They have won 2 out of 3, and going into Denver's never easy to beat Colorado. They lose that game 4-2, but they have had some marquee wins. I think this 3-game homestand is important.
Yeah.
You got 6 points available. If you could get 4 points this week at home, I think shows me that at the very least, this team is going to fight and claw their way back in. But, and I don't want to let 3 games decide the season, but I think this 3-game stretch could end up being a turning point for this team and for the fan base I think a lot of the fan base is kind of similar to what the Titans are feeling right now What's the point of winning? This team isn't good enough as currently constructed to actually get to the playoffs, let alone make a run in the playoffs. Let's get a high draft pick, or at least put ourselves in a position in the lottery where we could get a high draft pick and try and get one of these generational prospects coming out. I'm forgetting the name of the big guy this year. There's like I don't know if he's Bedard or McDavid, but he's supposed Seneca. Does that sound right?
Yeah, sounds right.
Gavin McKenna. Gavin McKenna is the name that I'm thinking of. Yes.
Tomato.
I think Seneca already got drafted.
Yeah.
Yes, Gavin McKenna is the name. And it's like, I think a lot of Preds fans are just thinking, let's put ourselves in a position where if the ping pong balls go our way, we get that guy.
Yeah.
But this team has a right to try and play their way out of the draft pick conversation. And right now, they're doing their best at it. I think these next 3 games, if you get 4 points against Carolina, the Leafs, and the Rangers, I think that shows you that this team isn't just flash in the pan, 2-week stretch of good play, and they're going to revert back to their old ways, that they actually have turned a corner.
Yeah, and then when you go to that away trip starting December 23rd, if you can win at least 4 of those games out of the 7, that's kind of where you're looking at. Because look, minus Minnesota, you have St. Louis, Utah, Seattle, Calgary. Those 4 teams, to me, those are must-win games for the Nashville Predators because those are teams that are comparable to the point standings. And if you can beat those teams, that's where you can kind of separate yourself from the bottom to top.
Well, and you look at the standings and, talking with Max last week, you make the point of, well, they're only 5 points back.
Right.
Doesn't seem like it's completely insurmountable to get up 5 points, but they are still in 8th place in the Central. And 5 points is a lot more daunting when you look and see, well, the Kraken are still in front of you. Even the Blues, after you destroy them twice in the last 5 days, they're still in front of you. Chicago has 32. Winnipeg, who, they won the President's Trophy last year.
Mm-hmm.
Utah's got 35. San Jose's got 35. Like, it's not just 5 points. It's all the traffic in front of you that you've got to climb past too. Long way to go. Again, we're not even to the midway point of the season yet, but this team has to have sustained success. You can't afford another stretch of 8 to 10 games where you're only coming up with 5 or 6 total points. You've got to be able to beat the teams you're supposed to, like they have, and get a couple of these games. You beat the Panthers in overtime. You beat the Avs in a shootout. You've got to be able to get those bonus points every once in a while against the really good teams while beating the teams that you should, that are in that same tier as you in the standings.
Yeah, and like the San Jose Sharks, they currently hold that second spot in the wild card, that is at 35 points. That's a team that young talent, they can kind of string together some wins, but look, I don't think they'll be holding on to that position for long, in my opinion. I think that second spot for the wild card is wide open.
We'll see. And the Preds, again, back at home starting tomorrow. We'll give away some tickets to that game coming up, so don't go anywhere. We'll continue to talk Preds on the other side. And then with the Chiefs eliminated from the playoffs, makes the AFC very interesting. We'll get into that before the show wraps up as well. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone lines driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Next man up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025, The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Talking some Preds here in the final hour. And we got a chance for you to win some Preds tickets. Be caller number 4 right now at 615-737-1025, and you will win a pair of Preds tickets to see them take on the Carolina Hurricanes tomorrow night at Bridgestone Arena. 7 o'clock puck drop again tomorrow night, Wednesday the 17th. Be caller number 4 at 615-737-1025 to win a pair of tickets. Preds and Canes tomorrow night. Talking about the Preds, and right now, I mentioned it, the Preds fan base, it feels like a lot like the Titans fan base. It's just early on in the season of let's focus on rebuilding, get a good draft pick, and build around the young core, because clearly the older guys, the veterans that you brought in, are not working out. And it's funny, on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, Optimistic Joe, fitting name here, says, we are looking at mediocrity. If we battle to make the playoffs, we need to blow it up and suffer the consequences that come with it. To get to the next level, we need elite young talent. May the smoke be with you. So Joe, Optimistic Joe on the text line, I'm not sure who gave him that name. I think that's the sentiment around a lot of the Preds fan base. And I get it. This is a team that has been outside of the cup run and, winning the President's Trophy the next year. They've been kind of stuck in the murky middle of the NHL. You're good enough to sneak into the playoffs about every other year, maybe 2 out of every 3 years, but you're never getting that high enough draft pick to get a game-changing player. And you're hoping that Brady Martin can end up being a guy like that.
Right.
And he showed some flashes when he was up, especially during training camp. Even making the roster is a big deal for Brady Martin. But is Brady Martin going to be that top-line center that you really need if you're going to go win a Stanley Cup? I don't know. And the most surefire way to do that is to pick first, pick second, pick third in the draft, which is something the Preds just have not done.
Yeah, like to the texture's point there, Optimistic Joe, I'm still on the optimistic side. I know that's the name that's tied to that, but I'm still on the glass half full spectrum of all this, because look, there are some young pieces on this Preds roster right now that you can actually rally around and currently win. Prime example, Reed Schaefer, a guy that continues to go day in and day out and continue to work hard and has 3 goals on the season.
Scored from way downtown last night.
Yeah, like talking about a guy that just has that grit and effort. Like, I believe Ozzy Weisblatt's still hurt, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it seems like he will be out for a while.
Yeah, that guy to me reminds me so much of the good days of the Preds with like Jordan Tutu and Darcy Hordichuk, because those were grit and grind guys that would just go after everybody when the play wasn't going on, or it would just create a burst of energy. And that's kind of what this team needs. It just needs a burst of energy. And Michael McCarron does that as well. And you just have to complement that when you have players out.
I do want to talk with Max when he comes on Friday about Michael Bunting, because he seems like he's been kind of an unsung hero for this team too. He scored last night, a guy that when they made that trade last year at the deadline, there was a lot of question marks about that. And on the loud line, the third line, I think he's been really solid and been what this team needs out of him, playing in front of the net. And it's one of those moves, like Barry Trotz has had his flaws for sure. And everybody's going to point to the 4th of July 2 years ago, where it looked like the Preds won free agency. They won the offseason, and clearly those moves have not panned out, and now you're stuck with the contracts. But there's been some moves on the other end of the spectrum that were widely not taken to be great from Barry Trotz that have actually turned out to be okay. So I do want to ask Max about Michael Bunting and the impact he's had, because we got to speak with him on the show during training camp over at Fordyce Bellevue, and just seemed like a great guy, a good locker room fit, and he's been bringing it on the ice too.
Let's go Bunting mental, folks. I mean, that's a guy to rally around. It really is. Look, and to Max's point that you mentioned earlier on in the last segment, that there is a buy-in from this team. There is a true core, I guess, feeling that this team can really go after.
Yeah.
And I do too. I have that feeling as well. And I'm not just saying that because, we're with the Preds, whatever. I genuinely feel that way. Like, there were a couple weeks ago, or it might have been last week, one of the shows, I was talking to somebody, either it was here or somewhere else. Like, I don't know about the Preds. I'm like, dude, this team has some young core pieces to really rally around. You can't just neglect that. I feel like a lot of people are just so gung-ho about looking at the future and not worrying about the now. Live in the present. See what you got in front of you, because you got some good pieces.
Yeah, and Max, I thought that was the most important thing Max said when he was on last Friday was there's just a different vibe around this team. These guys really enjoy being around each other and they're playing for each other. And that might not mean you're going to make the playoffs, but I think it at least shows you that this team isn't going to just lay down the rest of the way. And it's so tough. And I understand I have not been a lifelong Preds fan. You know, I've adopted the team since moving here. But it's so tough for me in hockey season when you look at the schedule and you say there's 50 games to go and you're already in draft mode. 50. Like I get it at the NFL level sometimes when for the Titans this year, you were horrible last year. You start 1-5 this year, 6 games in.
You know,
I get it. It's like there's 11 games left. You can go into, all right, where are we going to be drafting? That I understand. But man, like the same percentage of the way through the season in hockey with 50 games to go. I don't get how you can be in tank mode.
and you're only 5 points out from a wild card spot.
Which it sounds easier than it is,
Right.
obviously.
A little bit of
Like
fool's gold in there,
you've
for
got to
sure.
play really well to make up 5 points in the standings.
Yeah.
But at 50 games, it just gives me a little bit of optimism, a little bit of hope that if this team keeps this trend going, they continue to play the way they have. I mean, they're putting the puck in the net, which that was the biggest thing with this Preds team early on in the year. Not only were they losing, they were kind of boring too. They weren't scoring. There wasn't a whole lot of storylines that you could look at and say, man, at least that's going for us. But I think you're starting to see it. You mentioned Reed Schaefer. He's been great. Scored his first NHL goal, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago tonight. And he's scored 2 more since then. Matthew Wood's been great. I think there is at least something to rally around now with the Preds because they are playing hockey that is much more fun to watch than it was early on in the year.
Yeah, and we're kind of seeing a little bit more from Steven Stamkos, who obviously having his 4-goal night the other night. And,
Yeah.
and the reason why I bring that up is that, and I mentioned earlier about crashing the net and so forth. I believe it was Alex Doherty's article a couple weeks back when he interviewed Barry Trotz, and he wanted more out of Stamkos. And I think, don't quote me on it, but I believe it was mentioned in there about how he wanted to see more out of Stamkos, not just on one part of the ice, he wanted to be a complete player. And like, to me, having a guy like Stamkos just be a absolute force in front of the net and just cleaning up whatever ricochets off the goalie, to me, that's what has to happen more with this team.
Yeah, you need more out of the guys who you expect to score goals. Like I know we talk about Wood and Schaefer and these young guys, but if this team is going to claw back and get into the playoff chase, it's got to be because of your veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Forsberg, Yossi, Stamkos, Marchessault, Shea, like those guys have to be who you expected them to be when you signed them. And that might be asking a lot. I know Jonathan Marchessault has at least started to look a little bit better. He had a couple goals early on in the year, and then November was tough. I think he only had 1 goal all of November, but he's got 2 since then, 2 in December so far. So you need more from him, but it is good to see Steven Stamkos becoming a goal scorer again. I mean, it was tough when it's just like the puck just wasn't getting to him in high danger spots.
He would have a beautiful shot on net, or not on net, but it hit the post, and you're just thinking, yeah, that was just only a small piece away from going the other way.
Justin from Greenbrier on the text line says, I don't want the Preds to be in loser mode. I know us as fans of this team are tired of mediocrity, but I'm also tired of bad sports being played in town. And I think that's fair. I get that in pretty much all sports, you got to take a step back before you take a step forward.
Sure.
That's how sports are built. The bad teams get the best players because they're built for parity. But it's also, it's tough to watch bad sports and hope that your team's going to make the right decisions with those assets they get for being bad and eventually be good again. And with the way the Titans and Preds have played the last 2 years, it's been a tough time to be a Nashville sports fan. And I know I always have to mention Nashville SC because we get Nashville SC fans. They had a great year this year.
Sure.
But the 2 teams that fans care about the most, again, no offense to Nashville SC.
Drives at your drums.
Right.
Yeah.
Preds, Titans have just been so bad basically since the Preds went to the playoffs in 2023. One of those teams actually showing some fight and getting back into the playoff chase, I think would be great for this city because there is a void that, especially now Vanderbilt football, college football in general is wrapping up. There's a void in this city of a team that fans want to root for. And the Preds have an opportunity to grasp that.
Yeah. Look, I'm born and raised in Asheville. That 2017 run, the way downtown was just flooded with gold. Look, again, to that texture that just said about, looking forward to the future, you have the pieces here. Just look at it from a optimistic mindset. Don't be negative about it. 7 of the last 10 have been wins for this team.
Yeah.
They can continue that streak. It doesn't have to be all losing out the rest of the way. Like you said, 50 games, 5 points, it's easier said than done, but there is a lot of good things for this team right now that you just have to see.
And I want to see the Preds. I know they went to the playoffs 2 years ago, but
Right.
I want to see a playoff run here because I think football is different. Like NFL football, everybody supports their teams year round for football.
Sure.
The NFL is king. I think cities rally around their hockey and their baseball teams more than anything.
Mhm.
When your hockey and baseball teams are good, that's when you get parties in the streets that go on for miles. And the city is just buzzing about hockey and baseball during the playoffs. I'm excited to see a Preds playoff run. Again, I don't think it's going to happen this year with the way that they started, but I want to see this team build back to being a contender because this city does love its hockey.
If this team can somehow find their way into a playoff spot, I feel like it's the Georgia Bulldogs. What comparison I'm about to make is that once you get to meaningful hockey, this team is different.
Right.
That's what I
well,
think.
and they've got guys who have been there before,
Mhm.
which that may mean less than I would guess it does. But you've got Ryan O'Reilly, you've got Steven Stamkos, you've got Jonathan Marchessault. So all those guys, are they all Conn Smythe winners at one point?
Double check you.
I mean, at the very least, they've all won Stanley Cups. I know Ryan O'Reilly won the Conn Smythe. I want to say Marchie did too. I'm not 100% sure though. Caleb says you had to be there to truly understand how downtown was during CMA Fest and then the home finals game for the Preds at the same time. Yeah, I remember
That was a wild day.
I remember watching that run on TV because, as a Titans fan growing up, you paid attention. And I remember seeing like Lawan and Quentin Spain in the, drinking out of the catfish and all that stuff. Like it looked like a blast. And I'm excited. Yeah, what's the Michael Scott? I love inside jokes. I'd love to be a part of one day. That's kind of how I feel about the Preds playoff runs. It's like now that I've moved here, like I want to see that. I want to be a part of it. I'm excited to see that for the Preds, hopefully in the near future.
So Stamkos, not a Conn Smythe.
Okay, but back-to-back Stanley Cup winner,
correct?
Captain of a back-to-back Stanley Cup champion. But you've got guys with the experience. If they get in the dance, I don't think they'd be an easy out. And hockey, just like baseball, one of those sports where you get in the dance, you got a chance. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll talk some more football to wrap up the show in the final couple of segments. The AFC playoffs will not have the Kansas City Chiefs in it for the first time since 2014. We'll dive into it next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Couple days early here, Parker.
I just needed a boost of energy. Not gonna lie.
If TD is listening, you might get jealous. This is supposed to be our song.
Don't worry, it's playing again on Thursday.
Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Couple more segments on this Tuesday. Chasing Big Joe coming up at the top of the hour. Wanted to get into the AFC playoffs because it is going to look very different. I saw this tweet the other day after the Chiefs were officially eliminated. This is the first time since 1998 that there will be an AFC playoffs without Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or Patrick Mahomes. One of those three has been in every AFC playoffs for the last 27 seasons.
As long as I've been alive.
I have not been alive to see a playoff without all three of them. This will be the first.
That's crazy. I mean, this has to be the year for Josh Allen, right?
If it's not, they got to change something. And it's not Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen, they've staked their franchise to him. He is the franchise quarterback, and deservingly so. MVP last year. He's in the conversation again this year.
Secondary's old.
But I think you start asking the Sean McDermott question if they don't win it this year.
Yeah.
Because you look around the AFC, and they're going to have to go on the road. Most likely, they did save their chance to win the AFC East with that win in Foxborough on Sunday. But still, a game back of the Patriots. They have to make up some ground. Likely going to be going on the road. But do I believe in the Patriots and a second-year quarterback and Mike Vrabel to win against that experienced Josh Allen Bills team in the playoffs? I don't think so. Do you believe in the Broncos? That defense is really good, and they're going to make it tough, and defense travels in the playoffs, to use the old cliche. But do I trust Bo Nix to go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen in the playoffs? If they don't win it this year, if they don't go to the Super Bowl this year, then I think you have to start asking the question of, do they have to blow it up around Josh Allen and rebuild?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The whole Keon Coleman pick for them, it's slowly evolving into being a good pick, but
he was benched earlier this year, right?
Yeah. And look, to the point of if it's the Bills' year or not, time will tell. You mentioned the Patriots. I'm still high on them, even though they blew a 21-0 lead over the Bills. I think the Bills have every bit of the intangibles to win a Super Bowl, but I'm not gonna just glorify them yet to be Super Bowl, finalist.
Yeah, I just look around the AFC and I just wonder, who do I trust in the playoffs? And I think the Bills are the only ones. Denver right now is the 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
New England the 2. Jacksonville the 3. Pittsburgh is the 4. Chargers at 5. Buffalo 6. Houston the 7. So if those are your playoff teams, and the only other teams that have a chance to get in, Indy and Baltimore. If Baltimore gets in, you just never know. Lamar Jackson, injuries, hasn't had a great year, but you never know with them. I would have trouble picking anybody to come out of the AFC other than Buffalo.
Yeah. Look, maybe Denver. Denver, I thought they were fool's gold. I really did. I thought
they just keep finding ways to win.
Yes.
They do. And Bo Nix, I think, is exactly what Sean Payton needs. You've got that defense, and Bo Nix is going to do enough on the offensive side to win games for you. Again, it's just the AFC it's always been, since I've been alive, it's always been a quarterback conference. And when I look at the quarterbacks, I like Drake May. I think Drake May is going to be a very good quarterback.
Yep.
This is his first playoff experience. I don't know if he's going to make a run and go to the Super Bowl. Trevor Lawrence, he's won one playoff game, and it took him throwing 4 picks in the first half and making a crazy comeback to do it. Justin Herbert has not proven he can win in the playoffs. The Steelers, whoever wins the AFC North, I don't know if I believe in them. Maybe the Ravens again. John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, those are guys who have been there before and made it to – Harbaugh's made it and won the Super Bowl. Jackson's been in the AFC Championship game. But when I look at it, I'd have trouble picking anybody at the Bills. And if they don't win it, I agree. I think that they have to start asking some serious questions.
Yeah. One team, you mentioned the Steelers, that's a team to me that could be a dark horse to make a deep run in the playoffs. And the reason why I say that is because Aaron Rodgers, yes, everybody kind of glorifies him as the vet quarterback that can do everything, whatever. But I think because the AFC is as wide open without a Mahomes, I think Aaron Rodgers has the same playing level as Josh Allen right now. I really do.
It's going to be really strange watching the playoffs knowing that the Chiefs aren't in it, right? Because
Yeah.
that's been the last 8 years since, because the AFC Championship has been in Arrowhead every year except for one since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in Baltimore. The Chiefs ended up winning still on the road against the Ravens. They have been in every AFC Championship. The last time that they lost in the AFC playoffs before the AFC Championship was to the Titans when they beat them in Arrowhead, the Marcus Mariota self-touchdown pass game. So it's going to be strange watching like the AFC divisional round and not thinking about who's going to Arrowhead next week. For the Bills, it's going to be important to see if they can win that division. They've opened the door. They've got the Browns, the Eagles, and the Jets left. Eagles, that's not a gimme, but it's in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Can they win that one? The Patriots, this is the big game this week. They are at the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose that game, the door swings wide open for the Bills to be able to come and take that division. And if the Bills are playing games at home throughout most of the playoffs, they're going to go to the Super Bowl. But if they have to play 3 straight road games to get there, that's when things get a little bit murky.
Yeah. And look, you mentioned the Bills and that scenario. I look at the NFC while you say that and say it's the Rams and the Bills. I think that's kind of your two front runners. Now, depending on Devontae Adams, if he gets back in the fold from his hamstring injury, I believe he's doubtful from what McVay said earlier this week. But it's a question mark for me if the Rams can kind of keep it all together without Devontae Adams. If not, then it's Seattle. I mean, that's the only other team, right?
I mean, I guess the Eagles, it's kind of the same thing as the Bills of like, I trust them in the playoffs. They've proven they can win the playoffs. But yeah, do I trust Caleb Williams? Same issue as Drake May. Team's been really good. Quarterback's been a lot better, but it's your first playoff experience. Are you going to go win 3 games in 3 weeks to go to the Super Bowl? Probably not. The NFC South, they're losing in their first game almost certainly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Seattle, San Francisco, and then, Detroit and Carolina hanging on the outside. Carolina's not going to do anything, but Detroit, I think, could be interesting if they get in just because of the offensive firepower that they have. But the NFL in general, wide open. I think the Rams are probably the one team that stands out. Rams Bills, I think, would be a really fun Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen. I would be locked in for that one.
I'm right there with you.
And it's just exciting that it's not going to be the Chiefs in the playoffs as they make their way to Nashville this week, eliminated from playoff contention for the first time since 2014. 8955, not happy with your take about Aaron Rodgers being able to play to the level of Josh Allen.
Well, what I meant was, Rodgers is a game manager in today's day and age, and he knows how to milk the clock. We saw it last night versus Miami. I mean, that to me is the reason why Rodgers has the same, I guess, playing level to go to the Super Bowl as Josh Allen, the same odds, in my opinion. I think that's the way it is.
There's a chance they could play each other in Pittsburgh in the wild card. I guess we'll see then. My money would be on the reigning MVP, Josh Allen, but
fair.
That's why they play the game. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Last segment coming up, last call for phones. If you have any thoughts, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. With the Chiefs being eliminated, that means a 7th quarterback will go to the Super Bowl since 2022 out of the AFC. There have only been 6. I have a little fun fact about that. We'll get to it next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final segment on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Chase and Big Joe coming up right after us at noon. We were talking about the AFC playoffs, wide open. The Bills, they've got their easiest path to the Super Bowl that they've had. Joe Burrow's not in your way. Patrick Mahomes isn't in your way. Likely Lamar Jackson not going to be in your way. Josh Allen, go take your team to the Super Bowl and prove that you deserve to be among those elite guys. We'll see what happens. But with the Chiefs being eliminated, that means that a new quarterback out of the AFC will reach the Super Bowl. Since 2002, there have only been 6 quarterbacks to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. That is still, I say it a lot, but it is the craziest thing. That's 24 years. You've had 6 quarterbacks represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. That's Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Big Ben, and then one apiece from Joe Flacco and Joe Burrow. That's it. That is it that has represented the AFC in the Super Bowl since 2002. Do you know which team went in 2002 and who their head coach was?
2002, the Bucks?
No. Out of the
Raiders.
NFC. Yes, it was
Yeah.
the Bucks against the Raiders. Led by head coach
Bill Callahan.
Bill Callahan.
Bill?
Yeah.
Of all people. Holy cow.
That's the last time that a quarterback not named Manning, Brady, Mahomes, Roethlisberger, Flacco, Burrow was in the Super Bowl.
Was that against John Gruden and Tampa
It was.
Bay?
Yeah.
It was. So that was Gruden beating his former team.
I knew the NFC team. I just couldn't recall the AFC team.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 2002, it was the Raiders. That and Rich Gannon was the last quarterback outside of those 6. And I guess you could make it even only 4 quarterbacks have represented the AFC in the Super Bowl out over the last 22 years, with the exception of 1 year of Flacco and 1 of Burrow. It's been all Brady, Mahomes, Manning, and Big Ben went twice.
Look, I'm going to go back to what I said during the middle of summer. The NFL is hurting for quarterbacks in a roundabout way. Like, without those guys, I mean, sure, there is some good competition out there, but you don't have your leader of the pack anymore. It's all pretty even.
The quarterback talent has always just been so lopsided, and I'm sure as a Titans fan and Titans fans out there are frustrated by this. It's like, why can't the generational quarterbacks ever end up in the NFC? Like the NFC, how many quarterbacks have gone to the Super Bowl in that time out of the NFC?
Probably more than 7.
Way more. I would guess close to 15.
Yeah.
Let me see. This will be nice and easy. So since 2002, again, there have been 6 quarterbacks to represent the AFC. In the NFC, you have had Jake Delhomme, Donovan McNabb, Matt Hasselbeck, Rex Grossman, Eli Manning, Kurt Warner, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Colin Kaepernick, Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz. I guess that would be Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy. 19.
That is, whoa.
So we're talking about all these guys who go back consistently. Brady went 6 times out of the AFC.
That's mind-boggling.
Manning went 3 times, right?
Yeah.
No, 4. 4. He won against the Bears, lost to the Saints, lost to the Seahawks, beat the Panthers. So he went 4 times. Roethlisberger went twice, and Mahomes has now gone 5 times.
Yep.
So you've got all those guys repeating. The only guys who have gone multiple times out of the NFC in that span, Hurts has been twice. Wilson's been twice.
Mm-hmm.
Manning's been twice. That's it. 3 guys have gone back multiple times, while the AFC is just loaded with these quarterbacks who dominate. And that's what's frustrating about the AFC. Being a fan of one of those teams that doesn't have the elite quarterback in the AFC, you just have to hope that you get lucky and either get one of those guys. Titans are hoping that with Cam Ward, or maybe a year like this where most of those guys somehow miss the playoffs.
Maybe this is the new trend of Josh Allen is the next guy on that list to make it just 8?
It would be 7.
7.
since
That's
20
yeah.
So,
7.
and unless Jalen Hurts or Matthew Stafford goes back. So I guess we could get another repeat this year.
Yeah, but still, I'm just
but
out of the AFC though.
You'd still be 19 quarterbacks out of the NFC in the last 23 years, 6 for the AFC.
That it makes you wonder: is the AFC just that bad, and you always have the same quarterback every year, or is it just the NFC's that wide?
I think
open?
they've just had dominant quarterbacks. Like even the guys that you look at that repeated. Eli Manning went twice.
Yep.
Was Eli Manning ever a top 5 quarterback in the NFL?
No,
probably not. I think you could argue he was top 10 most of his career, but he was never top 5.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Russell Wilson, maybe for a second or two there.
in his heyday.
But are those 3 guys even in the same league as Brady, Manning, Mahomes? And that's the issue the AFC has run into is you've gotten probably the 3 best quarterbacks of the last 25 years have all been in the AFC, and they've been consistently dominant. You've had dynasties. And then, of course, Manning went twice with 2 different teams.
Yeah.
So it is funny, though, when you look at the playoff picture, despite all of those quarterbacks being out, most of their teams are still in. The Broncos are going to be the 1 seed. The Patriots are probably going to be the 2 seed. The Steelers are currently winning their division. The Ravens could get in there. So you look around, it's like, yeah, we may get new quarterbacks, but it could just be the exact same team still going to the Super Bowl.
It's very possible. Hey, all I'm saying is don't count out Rodgers in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you are not getting good reaction to that on the text line. Chase from White Bluff says Bills Super Bowl odds plus 850, Steelers plus 6,000. It ain't close.
Hey, I know it probably ain't close, but when you got a game manager in Rodgers, just never count him out. That's all I got to say.
Chase from White Bluff makes a good point that I guess if we have to mention all the quarterbacks from the NFC, Drew Brees needs to be in that conversation too. He was top 5 in the NFL for a very long time, but he got unlucky, awful defenses, and then no calls. Drew Brees definitely should have been to the Super Bowl twice if it wasn't for that DPI call.
Awful call.
Yeah.
I was at my buddy Trey's house, and his dad, Mr. Vern, he can't
You were
watch.
at Trey's house?
Yeah, no, not that Trey, a different Trey. This is one of my best friends. I was at his house. We were eating some gumbo, and he ended up leaving. I was like, where are you going, Mr. Vern? He goes, I can't watch this. It was a Saints game. They were like, at the end, they had to kick the field goal to win it. He goes, I can't watch it.
Right.
Ever since that DPI call, I can't watch any games at the end of it.
Yeah, that's a very good point from Chase from White Bluff. Drew Brees was in the NFC, but he just didn't get enough help, I guess. He should have gone twice. That'll about wrap things up for us on this Tuesday. Dr. Crane, always a pleasure to have you on. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you. Always fun.
Leading right into Christmas next week. So we'll enjoy that. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next. Plenty to get to on this Tuesday. Keep it right here. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.